Jack. Get ready, get jivin'.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and genders all across the spectrum, to episode 21 of Jivin' with Jack. I'm a little bit discombobulated. You know what? I just saw Aaron put out a tweet that the little girl from that GIF died. It just hit me so hard because I always loved that GIF, and I don't know who the kid was or where the kid was from. I just remember that GIF of her like laughing like that. I always thought was so adorable. And then like right before like maybe an hour ago, I saw that she died. I'm like, what? Oh. Breaks your heart. Also, I have no idea where my co-host is. So, I mean, I have Caden. But, you know, I don't like Caden.
Yeah, you have me.
Hey, guys.
I'm sure you'll hear the lawnmowers and the blowers in the background. I'm so sorry. And you probably hear the dog barking
it's
every
fine.
so often.
Well, the reason I wanted, I know, Austin, is because I know you're going to say that episode of Moon Knight was the greatest thing since the last episode of Moon Knight. And I know Austin hated that. But you know what? After last week, I was like, all right, you know what? Let's see how it ends. And then I'm watching it and I paused it. And then I recorded two separate rants. And they're basically Jack attacks.
Do you have them in here?
Moon Knight, but I can't find the files now because I put them in like the weirdest places. And I'm like, where the hell are they? You know what? I think I found one.
Well, I would say that I agree with this. What RJ said here, Moon Knight finale was epic, Rush definitely, and they needed another episode to let stuff breathe. Like I think they should have had an episode focus on Layla, more focus on Layla. You know, but it was probably the best finale they've had for Disney Plus shows since Loki.
They've not had any good finales. Actually, you know what?
I'm saying
finale that sucked, but like
good for Marvel Disney Plus. Like it's the best.
I didn't even put Winter Soldier above that because even though I hated that show, like at least that was cohesive, and at least that girl got blown up. That girl died, and what were they called? They look like
Flag Smashers.
The Flag Smashers. They got blown up by what?
Aaron Zemos.
And I was like, I started clapping. I'm like, go team! But they've had good finales. No, man, oh my God, I was watching this and I was just literally just like watching it. And at the same time, I was so bored. And I don't even know if it's good if I show you what I said because I think I kind of ended up attacking people.
Oh my God.
Not attacking people. I mean, I might have used
You started attacking me. I know. You're like, this show is made just for Caden, like Miss Marvel will be, because you've been saying that this whole time.
So, okay, I found the video. I might use words like simple-minded or something. I don't know.
God.
And people who don't have.
Someone point out this. That the finale, like this whole show, and especially the finale, was such a fu to Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns for Wonder Woman 84.
How?
Because of Layla.
Wonder Woman 84 looked good, and that movie was terrible.
No, because Layla was a better Wonder Woman.
Terrible, dude. She looks so awful in that little costume thing. She looked like my sister dressed up in like as Wonder Woman 84. I don't know if I have a photo of it, but oh my God, I don't. So first of all, I always thought she was the most aggravating character out of this whole thing, and like I don't know, maybe like there was like I could have this entire show without her. Like, it was just this dude trying to figure out what is wrong with me. And I don't know. Is she going to be in this from now on? Like, is this going to be like Ant-Man the Wasp? But at least Ant-Man the Wasp, the character of the Wasp, I forgot what her name is. Is that Kate Beckinsale? No.
Who? No, the Wasp is Evangeline
Lilly. Yeah, from Lost. At least she was an established badass before she becomes a Wasp. Like, you knew she could kick butt. She teaches Scott Lang how to fight, and so when she gets the Wasp kit, and she has what's the word I call personality. But like when she came out with the costume, I was like, oh no, and all of a sudden like nerd erotic went through my mind. I'm like, it's GM sheet. No, I didn't say that. But I guess it just. I said it was going to turn into a CGI fight. I mean, the one cool part was when they were in the marketplace and all three of them were fighting, and finally we got to see that, Ethan Hawke's character can fight and take care of himself. But other than that, I didn't care about the end. Like they had a post-credit scene. Is that the brother you were telling me about? That he has a brother who's evil?
Not a brother. That's his third personality.
Oh. So that's still the same dude.
Yeah, still Oscar Isaac, still Mark Spector, but it's his third personality, Jake Lockley. Jake Lockley.
You have to call crap out when it's look. I face it all the time.
The crazy thing is,
I'm a big Snyder fan. I have to hear it from people who hate the Snyder stuff, including Austin. Let me see where.
No, but the crazy thing is that so people like I said that, I think I said this on here or somewhere, that I have friends who are psychiatrists and and I've met people who have not suffered, but who have DID, and they said that this show is the best DID like out of all the medias that has had DID and like Hollywood.
What's DID?
It's like personality disorder. So you have
dissociative identity disorder. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Boom. That's what college, Caden. You learn stupid stuff like that. But yeah. Okay.
It's. And
I didn't have to Google that. My hands were right here. I wasn't.
I know. I'm very proud of you, Jack. You don't have to Google anything. Good for you. But
do you want to know what I've been doing since last Friday? This. I'm possibly looking at a new job. These are all notes I'm taking, and my mind is exhausted. You know what? Look, it keeps going. It keeps going. I'm doing about 5 to 7 hours a day of studying and review, and I still have a lot of work to do.
English 11 and 12. That's my notebook.
I haven't studied like this since college. I mean, I used to tutor, and even then, I didn't put that much effort into studying. But holy crap!
Because I remember in English 11 and 12. We had to take like 3-page notes every day for English 11, and for English 12 we took notes, 5 pages of notes every day, and we had to do like a PowerPoint presentation for like at the end of every week. So we had to like
see, that was recent for you. I haven't done this in
right.
Ooh, yeah, it's been a while for me. I mean, I do take notes and stuff, especially for Jivin with Jack. I usually write my notes out, my thoughts out, so I don't forget them. Sometimes I'll have ideas like that stupid video. And I'm not going to show it. I think it's kind of mean. I basically said that people who like this garbage, and I was like, no.
Yeah, you're like, you revealed it, and you're like, never mind.
And plus, I think Austin would have appreciated it. So, okay, Austin told me he's sick, so that's what it is. How would you guys feel? So, I'm so tempted to take like a month off just so I can focus on this. But the problem is I already took too much time off. Like first I had 2 surgeries, and then my dad had his problems, emergency room. Like I've already taken too much time off. And look, this is the best show on the Pantheon, according to me. And we need to have some fun. But okay, look, do you think that they hold back on the TV shows sometimes? The TV shows aren't as well made as the movies are, at least in terms of plot and I won't say villain, but
I will say this.
He was good in this role, but I feel like this could have been. And I didn't see today's Halo. I saw last week's Halo.
Well, the funny enough is that my dog is not my dog, but my cousin's dog is named Halo. So when I hear me saying Halo, I'm not talking about the show Halo, and I haven't watched the show Halo for the past 3 weeks.
Okay,
after that
that's when it's gotten good. Like before that, like it was kind of.
I watched a clip from it, from recent episode. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I haven't seen last week's episode or the one that came out today. I haven't caught up with Picard. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds started today. I haven't seen that. I'm like,
I watched a clip from like the past couple episodes, and I was like, "What is this going to?" Because I saw the clip of him meeting the other chick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was just like did they kiss or something? Like
no, they didn't. Something else is going on there. They're connected. Yeah. So again, I have no idea about Halo lore or anything. Yeah. But I thought that she's there to she's like a Trojan horse. But apparently she's there to find him and say, "Yo, you don't know what's really going on." And then they meet in this like temporal realm.
Yeah, I'm done with this Quan girl.
Done
with this Quan girl. This Quan girl needs to. She needs to.
You know what? So the last episode I saw, she wasn't even in it. She wasn't even
Oh,
in.
yeah,
What's your problem? Who's that? Marvel Mania. Do you just
that's
hate it
RJ.
when they have a strong female character? You know
No,
what?
like,
I was talking to Enosh about this because we were talking about Nerdrotic and how
yeah,
every time he gets his panties in a bunch, no pun intended, anytime there's a female superhero. But on the other hand, like I was like, well, that can't mean they're like, you know, free from criticism. That's a great way to say you cannot criticize this character by immediately throwing the gender card. I'm like, well, what if it's a badly written female character? And I think maybe Quan could have worked. Maybe if they had gotten someone younger. I don't know how old that actress is, but maybe someone who's a teenager. Because if it's a teenager, like 14, 15 years old, they're like a child soldier, you can kind of like forgive the fact that they are like whiny and bratty, like,
I mean,
um,
the thing is, like, I understand that she's like probably like around my age, like
okay,
19, 20 in the show,
yeah,
but like, and she's like, probably like, and she's like Rebel Alliance, part of the Rebel Alliance and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
The Rebel Alliance.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
I got you, basically,
yeah,
yeah. But like, there
yeah,
is no Rebel Alliance. Like, dude, everyone's
there's
like,
no,
dude, we made peace with the
no,
USNC.
but
You know,
it's like, it's honestly like, like
I didn't
RJ
see the
keeps
latest
saying,
episode that came out today. I
Quan to
really
me,
caught up
like,
last night.
I stopped watching it because I'm like, Quan brings down every scene she's in. Like, to me,
Well,
like,
let me ask you this, Caden, because you're maybe this is a way the conversation can go. Do you think that in an effort to be more diverse and inclusive, that sometimes they overlook casting? They're like, oh no, she's an actress, she's Asian, that's a plus, that's a check mark, and she's female. They don't necessarily look for characterization. Like they're not like, wait, is she the best person for this role? Is this role written well? That maybe
I
they're
mean,
like, oh no, you're supposed to like her because she's diverse.
right. I mean,
Diversity
it all
everywhere. There's
depends
like billions of
because,
Asians.
like, like everyone else, the audience knows is I grew up in the industry and I grew up with my parents, my dad and my aunt
You grew up in
being
the USNC.
who are in
Gangs of
casting.
Spartan.
uh, who are in casting, and then I also grew up with other casting directors and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I know how casting works, and well, at least like I know how they do their casting, and they do it how the best actor for that best fits the role. And if it's the best actor that fits the role and checks off every bookmark that they need to check off, and it's the best actor that can actually pull it off, and can eventually also grow into the character that they are, then they're the person that booked the role. Not
Yeah.
someone who just checks off like majority of the boxes because they if they're not a good actor, or if they're a good actor but don't check off any of the bookmarks or the check marks, or one or two of them, then they're not gonna be cast. So
But you know
like
what it is, and I know I'm cut off as a hater, but I think Austin's been more blatant, like on Twitter. Like I forgot about Moon Knight until I was done studying, I was done my work, I sat down in my chair and I went on Twitter and I saw Austin say the Moonlight finale, Moonlight, Blue Moon, you had me. I'm surprised they didn't use that song. Maybe they did, but like I was like, oh, I forgot about that show. I still haven't caught up with Picard yet. Yeah, but pray
I
for me,
heard
guys.
Picard is
This
going
is-
downhill too.
You know what? So this is the problem. I mean, there's an argument between new Star Trek and old Star Trek.
Right.
I was going to talk about him. I want to talk about on Brian's show, but Brian's show is not about that. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want to get his is a positive show. That kind of reflects the best of Star Trek. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I am starting my own Star Trek show on the lounge called 10 Forward 2. Me like screaming about how I hate it.
It's terrible. It's the worst goddamn thing I've ever seen.
No, that's not the worst thing.
I know. What's the worst thing you've ever seen?
Oh, I saw Moon Knight last night. No, that's fine.
Okay, if you keep on saying Moon Knight, I'm going to like.
I would
call
put
the
Moon
show.
Knight under, like, I would say, at least Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought had better characterization. But then again, we already knew those guys. I liked WandaVision better. Loki, way better. I just think that
Well, so how would no?
introducing a new character, because that's tricky, because we know Wanda, we know Falcon, we know
Yeah, this is the first. This is the first Disney Plus show with a new character.
They need to write better pilots. And I think they need to stop it with the 30-minute, 40-minute episodes. They need to do good 60-minute episodes and focus, okay, this episode is just about this guy. So we're introduced to Steven, and then we're introduced to Mark, and their back and forth was good. And I predicted, I was like, watch, Mark's gonna come back. Mark, which one's the dumb one?
Steven.
Steven, okay. Not the dumb one, but you know what I mean. Hey,
Yeah.
He's very British. Oh dear. Oh no.
The very soft one. The
I
very
have to have tea with the Queen. Like,
yeah,
I'm like,
the
man,
very soft one. The very fragile.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole. That was like.
Is that in the comics? Is he like that? We're losing viewers, by the way.
Well, Stephen Grant. Oh, what the heck?
Yeah, everyone's mad at us.
Yeah, because he says.
Quick, let's talk about the Snyder Cut.
Stephen Grant, he's.
So you like WandaVision more? Okay, so for WandaVision, I would rank number 2 after Loki. Oh my god! I forgot about Hawkeye. Never mind. But
I can't. Hold on, now I have to look up Stephen Grant.
Yeah, see, I've never read Moon Knight. All I know is that you or Austin were like, he's like Marvel's Batman. I'm like, oh.
I didn't say he was like Marvel's Batman.
Okay, then it was Austin. One of the two of you said that he was like Marvel's Batman. I was like, man, could you imagine if they made like? Now I'd be scared. Like, you know, everyone said for a while that Marvel should buy
honestly,
DC and take over. I'm like, no, not anymore.
All right.
So Aaron liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier the best. Okay, cool. So I don't know. I think it's the kid factor. You know, like, my fear. My biggest fear is Daredevil, because I don't know if they'll do the Punisher. I think Jessica Jones they're not going to do. I don't think they're going to do Luke Cage either. But Daredevil, because they introduced him, or at least a version of him. I am so scared for that show. Even if they get the same writers, you're gonna be like, you can't do this. And I'm so scared. I'm genuinely frightened what they might do to Daredevil.
I mean,
I know you're not, kid, because you would love it. You would love it.
I mean, I loved the Daredevil show, and I don't have. Again, I think the difference between
how hard it is to find that poster, the Kevin Smith, one of them on the cross.
I think the difference between me, you, and Austin is that
we're older. Let's be honest, we're older.
That and also I have very low expectations. I don't go in any show with any expectations.
I don't have expectations. You know what? The first two are
the only thing I expect is a good show. And if it's like at least has if it's a 6-episode series and it has 4 good episodes, then the whole show is good. If it's 3 good episodes, the whole show is good. If it's 2 good episodes,
measure it. Because sometimes I'm like,
2 good episodes, and it's like,
but like it gets to the point and it gets better. Like all of a sudden, it's like,
if it progresses, But what William said this, I think, on RJ's stream, either on stream or backstage. I can't remember exactly where, but he said all the episode 5 throughout all these series is always the good episode.
I'm so worried about Obi-Wan now because I know it's the same people. I mean,
you have to remember, Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios are different, and it's Deborah Chow.
I'm so scared right now for Obi-Wan. I'm like terrified.
Did you watch the trailer? Do you want to watch the trailer?
Yeah, let's watch it. I haven't seen the new one. See, I've been so freaking busy. Yeah, let's watch the new one. Caden, pull it up. And I'm not trying to be negative.
You have to pull it up.
Maybe I'll become one of those hate channels guys like Dr. Doom.
Yeah,
What's his name?
will.
What's that guy?
Doomcock,
Overlord DVD. You know what someone should do? You know why his name is Overlord DVD? But if you change the spacing or something, you could create a duplicate channel and do the same thing, and people might mix it up.
Yeah.
And then just like mess with them. Oh, really? Yeah, but they're gonna make something as good as
because I can't share on Firefox.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I found it.
People keep on telling me to do on Chrome, but like I said that multiple times, that on Chrome, I'm on Max's phone.
Yeah. All right, we're up there. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the audio. Or say something. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, they're in Hong Kong.
Stay hidden, or we will not survive.
Ah. Oh, Oh shit, he's starting to look like
When
Alec
the time
Guinness.
comes, he must be trained. Like you trained his father.
Ooh, ouch.
You still won't Kenobi. He's gone.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. I want every lowlife and bounty hunter to squeeze him.
Wait, is it James Earl Jones though?
No one really knows.
Because unfortunately, he's old. Look, he's old. He's put his time in. He's put his time in. He's in his 90s, and even in Rogue One, he was sounding older. I mean, that's not a shot at him. Like the guy's just, you know, he's put in a lot of time in Hollywood. I think they're gonna have to look for someone who sounds similar to him at some point.
Yeah. Or like what they do with Luke Skywalker on the Mando and Book of Boba Fett, and just use audio archives and to stitch audio together.
Yeah, well, like Mark Hamill is still relatively young, or not young. He's not that old. Like,
what they do that the way they get Luke's voice is use audio archives and stitch his voice together. They don't use Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill doesn't voice. Yeah, no. Because
I thought
because
they took
Mark Hamill
like altered it like to make him sound like Luke.
No, they use audio archives and stitch them together.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's what they'll do here.
Luke. Yeah. Because there's two things. Because the assumption was in A New Hope that the last time they met was what the hell's that planet called? Mustafar? Or what's that? The planet where he screws up, where he burns up Anakin, right?
Mustafar.
Mustafar. Oh, I was right. Hey, very Indian sounding name. I
mean, that's the majority of where it's. I think George
Lucas does that, and so does Gene Roddenberry. There's a lot of Indian stuff in Star Trek, like the Ferengi.
I mean, Dune as well.
Derogatory word for like white people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so anyway, two things. He says, last time we met, and now I'm sinking. I'm going down. I'm going down. This is what happens when you buy cheap chairs off eBay. There we go. The last time he says, when we met, I was but the student and you were the master. I hope they don't retrograde that, because even if they meet again, this one, Obi-Wan needs to win the fight. It has to be that Obi-Wan still kicks the crap out of him.
Well, no. So, because last time they met, who won? Obi-Wan won. So now the second time they'll meet, you know who will win? Vader will win. So that means they'll have to duel twice. So that means Vader will win once, and then the second time they duel, Vader will lose.
Okay. So, yeah, you know what? That'll be interesting. That will be very interesting, because he's not that old here. Like,
he's not
small.
No, because Luke is 10.
Yeah. Oh wait, so he's only 10 years away from me of Al Guinness. Oof. Granted, Al Guinness wasn't that old either. But back then, old people.
And also, Alec Guinness didn't like.
Look at men and women in their 40s and like the 80s. They look like great grandparents.
Yes.
Look at footage, or like there's a
people age differently now.
People look differently. They look younger now.
Yeah.
Like this back and forth. Like this is what my parents looked at 25, and they look like they're older than my parents. Like, one, I think that as a society, we're in a huge state of arrested development. I think we're emotionally stunted to grow, which, you know, including myself, I'm 35. And, but like, that's one thing. The other thing is I think we eat differently. Number two,
we eat differently. I think it's definitely we eat differently. We're starting to do all these diets now, like vegan diets.
Medicine's getting better.
Medicine's getting better. I think, honestly, we're moving in a path where we'll become healthier in like the next 15, 20 years. But as a society, there'll still be some people who will be finding their way to get healthier. But I think we're really going on a healthier path now.
Yeah. So to speak. Yeah. I mean, we have more food, but we also have a huge obesity problem. And like, a lot of people don't want to talk about, like, one of the things that the virus attacks are people that are
obese,
overweight, you know, and, but, you know,
suffer from obesity.
70% of the people have died.
From
But Ray Fisher has tweeted something. I still want to talk about Star Wars, but let's kind of knock this out. Variety reports Warner Brothers General Counsel John Rogovin steps down. Ray Fisher says, "This is a huge win for anyone that's undergone an investigation at Warner Brothers over the last 14 years. John Rogovin's involvement in the Justice League investigation was a subject of many conversation between myself and Warner Media, none of which were good. Onward." Thoughts, Caden?
I just think, well, if you want to read the article,
okay, you want me to, okay, I wasn't sure. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to.
Oh, what a handsome man.
I know that I forgot that
I have to take it.
Yeah.
You want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read
I'll
it.
sit here and take a nap real quick.
Yeah, take your nap, old man.
All right.
Like I read
on my page, or it's good. I'll highlight it as we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Caden Reed.
Warner Brothers executive vice president and top legal boss John Rogovin has resigned his post. The well-liked and respected Rogovin was general counsel for the former Warner Media Studios and Network Group, which encompassed units like Warner Brothers Pictures and Warner Bros. Television. That division was overseen by Anna Sarnoff, who departed the company in early April on the heels of Warner Media's $43 billion merger with Discovery. Rogovin informed staff on his decision to leave on Wednesday email, saying there is a complete reorganization in the newly combined company, including the legal operations, that I have decided it's time to move on and to a new chapter after a truly fantastic run. It was not immediately clear who in the newly merged structure will absorb Rogovin's portfolio. He will remain in the place for a transitional period. It's been an incredible run for 14 years. Serving as the general counsel of Warner Brothers has been one of the all-time great legal jobs, but now is the right time for me to move on. And I wish the new leadership and everyone all the best to continue success. Rogovin's credited with masterful strategies around some of the company's biggest intellectual property, including The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, Two and a Half Men. Wow. His biggest contribution was rescuing the film group from agonizing rights battle over the character of Superman, brought on by comic co-creator John Schuster's family. The loss of the case would have dramatically impacted DC's entertainment film and TV projects.
Did his family not win?
No, they compromised. So
okay, they compromised because that was actually BS. That Siegel and Schuster's family, kind of like the Bill Finger thing, were getting no money.
Yeah,
like that sucks. Like, you created Superman when you were two poor Jewish teenagers, and it's become this mega billion-dollar franchise. And they're like, yeah, well, you signed a contract in 1937 for 10 cents an hour. That's all you'll be getting. It's like, no, and have you seen the Bill Finger documentary?
Yeah.
That's BS. Like, the dude basically
Bob
my
Kane.
whole life was a lie. I've been reading Batman since I was a kid, and like his family got nothing.
Yeah, because Bob Kane took 100% credit of the whole thing, and same. I mean, that's still going on today with new creators of the whole Deadpool thing. Deadpool is basically the new Batman of like that whole situation, where Rob Liefeld is taking full 100% credit for the creation of Deadpool when he's not the 100%. He's a co-creator.
Yeah,
there's another creator in Deadpool that people don't give credit to because Rob Liefeld is an asshole, and that takes credit. Like, if you even tweet about it, he'll block you.
Yeah, when it comes to money, people sell each other out. Like, I'm ready to sell you and Austin out. The second like someone comes to you and offer like, hey, we want to bring Jivin with Jack to a bigger network, I'll be like, yo, sign me up. Don't bring up Austin and Caden.
But yeah, so yeah, that's, I mean, like they said,
I just wanted to know, like, wait, is he the reason they didn't get to? Okay, they compromised.
Yeah, prior to Warner Brothers, he served 4 years as general counsel to the Federal Communications The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, providing guidance on issues including broad band internet access and advent of wireless. He was also a deputy assistant attorney general in the civil division of the Department of Justice during the Clinton administration. Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Donovan. Why did I say Donovan?
Raghav.
Raghavan holds a degree from Columbia University and the University of Virginia School of Law.
Following Columbia as well.
He serves on the board of visitors of Columbia College and is a board of the MPA, Creative Future, and Public Counsel Law
When
Center.
did they change the MPAA to MPA? The Motion Picture Association of America. What is this called? The Motion Picture Association now?
The MPA.
Is that what they're referring to?
Yeah, because
They got to get rid of the America, like Justice League. You just can't say Justice League of America anymore.
You can't say
Justice. It's still called JLA, isn't it? I haven't been. Yeah.
It's still
Justice
JSA,
League of
JLA, JLS, JLU.
Who are you fighting for? The Iranians, Superman?
So there's the JLA, there's the JLI, U, JLM.
League 2, a JLA 2.
So they have Justice League of America, they have Justice League International, they have Justice League Universe, they have Justice League Multiverse.
Oh my God, that's too much. Here, read his memo.
I'm gonna read his memo. I'm gonna read it.
You gotta do it in his voice.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it in his voice. Even though this is probably not his voice. I wanted to let you know that I will be leaving Warner Brothers. You have been a good friend to me, and I wanted you to hear from me first. As you might expect, there is a complete reorganization at the newly combined company, including the legal operations, and I've decided that it's time for me to move on to a new chapter after a truly fantastic run. I have really loved my 14 years at Warner Brothers, and it's been one of the all-time best jobs for a lawyer. The new team at Discovery has been extremely generous to me, and they have asked me to stay on during the transition, which I have agreed to do too. I look forward to staying in touch. All the best, John. See you next time on. Oh wait, no. But yeah.
Now you have to read like all this right here, like the.
Oh my God. I'm Variety, and you can go to our About Us newsletter, Variety events.
So what's he saying? Well, I guess
he's basically saying, I'm going away until they find their until they find their person.
Oh my God, we're talking about Doctor Strange too. Oh, we're gonna get to Doctor Strange. I haven't seen it yet.
I think I might see it tonight or tomorrow. And
I might go see it tomorrow with my sister or something. I don't know.
And Justice League Dark, of course. But yeah, like Fabian Nicieza is the co-creator of Deadpool, and nobody knows that because, like I said, Nicasia. Yeah,
Deadpool. Okay.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Brod is morally wrong, but not legally, and yeah, so that's true. That's true. Like it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Just like Superman Doom motto is truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Man, that makes me mad. Ooh, that makes me mad. Look at I'm wearing a Superman. Oh, I don't like that. Where I come from, you be proud from where you're from, boy.
Oh my
Come to
God.
our country illegally, Superman. Take up our Kansas food. Take our Kansas jobs. You better say you do it the American way.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
wait, there's.
So what's Ray's issue now? Ray's now what? You know what? I haven't checked him out on Twitter. Is he still convicted?
No, he's just saying he's just celebrating this guy is gone because he's been a pain in their butt.
Was he though? It seems like everyone liked him.
Not people dealing with him.
Oh.
Now let's see what good old Ray Fisher's saying about good old John Roven here.
Oh, don't tell me you went after him too. Charles Roven or Joe? Joe.
No,
Rogan?
I'm saying Rogan as Roven.
All right.
He was not liked.
Oh, okay.
He was not liked according to William.
So here oh wow. So do you remember that time? Walter,
do you remember the time that Walter Hamada and Warner Bros. Pictures tried to destroy a black man's credibility and publicly delegitimize a very serious investigation with like the press. But hey, Black Superman.
But
Yeah.
see, I hate when he said try to destroy a black man's credibility. Like, what if you happen to be white, Ray? Like, I hate when they throw that in there. Walter Amada's Asian. He probably has discrimination. Probably people make fun of his culture.
Well, so you're saying he's
guys eat
able to be
sushi?
racist?
People make jokes like that when you're Asian. You know, we just don't say anything. We just get like degrees and take over the world. But like, people make jokes about
Wow.
our cultures all the time. So Walter Amada got picked on. But like, he makes it seem like the implication there is like, you know, Walter Amada like went out and was like, I'm gonna stop this black man. I'm Asian.
That's so evil, Jack.
You know,
Why do you want to
Also,
stop?
find Black Superman with Ta-Nehisi Coates. I told you what the trailer for that. I told you what the teaser trailer for that movie is going to be whenever they make it.
Well, it's looking like it's gonna be. It's like not gonna even be a Black Superman anymore.
I liked the other idea where they were saying they wanted to do it with
I will continue
Michael B.
singing
Jordan and
every
Sal
time. You know what? I'll sing Ray Fisher's recent tweet also.
Yeah,
This is a huge, huge win for anyone that's undergone an instigation. Wow. An instigation.
Gabe, I think you need to go back to those English classes.
Investigation at Warner Brothers and cover the past 24 years, not 24, 14 years. Kevin Rogan. Wait, why does it say Kevin? Oh, I read that as Kevin.
Joe
Why?
Rogan. Are you reading my screen or are you reading your own screen?
No, I read your screen, but the way it was highlighted, it sounded like it looked like Kevin.
For some reason, it doesn't look good on here. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah. I was like, Kevin. I thought his name was John. What is Ray Fisher doing? John Rogan. Involvement in the Justice League investigation was the subject of many conversations between myself and Warner Media, that is now Warner Brothers Discovery, none of which were good. Onward. Accountability over entertainment. FYI, I am singing horribly on purpose, guys.
That's his actual voice. But
As my Jarbo's Puffalicious chocolate nipples with $2 super chat, saying Caden weed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's not actually Jarbo, is it?
No, that's not Jarbo. That's probably.
I had an embarrassing moment a couple weeks ago, and I still am trying to figure this out. Austin said Jarbo had been on Jivin with Jack in season 1, and I'm like,
yeah, he was.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was. He was.
Are you sure it wasn't on another show that we did with Ty that also
no
happened to be on it? It was Jivin with Jack.
It was Jivin with Jack.
Like I said,
Jarbo is a
colleague of ours, and we respect him a lot. I like Jarbo.
And now I have to look up Jivin with Jack on Pop Watch Corner.
Yeah, well, Ty destroyed the playlist. So the episodes are there, but they're scattered all across YouTube. Like, you can't find them in order. Ty just deleted the playlist. Let's see what else is Ray. Is Ray still out there? Oh, he's talking about vote Nina Turner for Congress. How about don't vote for Nina Turner for Congress? Vote for Tina Turner for Congress. Tina Turner. Tina Turner. What?
This is clearly not it.
And he's going to be in Rebel Moon, isn't he?
Who?
Ray.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got my poster on his wall.
What?
Poster. That's the same poster I have.
Okay, great. You have something in common with Ray Fisher. Everyone clap for Jack.
I paid for my poster. He went to Google Images and stole that.
Yes, he stole that from Google Images.
But I think okay, so I guess Ray's really not letting this go. What did Hamada call him, the N-word or something? Or he felt Hamada like?
Well, no, Hamada was throwing. He felt that Hamada was throwing, Joss Whedon. Well, no, Jeff Johns under the bus for Joss Whedon or something. I don't know.
Oh no, so he
was protecting Jeff
didn't
Johns.
want to get rid of Jeff Johns.
Yeah, I mean that's to me. Okay, the thing is, people are like, oh, but he should have done that. But the thing is, it's his boss.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
would you throw your boss under the bus as well?
Not only that,
Why
like stuff
use
about
the
Jeff
scapegoat?
Johns
Use the
never really.
scapegoat of Joss Whedon because he already has a bunch of shit on him that
Yeah.
you can use against him. Be like,
But
yeah,
like
Joss
the
Whedon.
Jeff Johns thing never made sense to me because they used the incident from Krypton, the Krypton show.
Right.
And in that there was an incident where an African American actor said, I want to change my hair, in every scene, or want to keep changing my hair up. And he said, no. She's like, well, it's a thing that black women do. And he's like, no, it's not. And I was like, oh, shit, damn. But then you
Yeah.
realize that Jeff Johns has a black wife. And all of a sudden the context of that changed. Like, okay, so let's say I, Jack Sheriff, was going to take a girl out who's white. Okay. So I take a white girl out. I'm like, I'm taking this white girl out. I'm going to buy her roses. And someone said to me, white women don't like roses. And I'd be like, yeah, they do. Like, what are you talking about? Like, all of them are the same or something like that? So anyway, but apparently that was used to say that Jeff Johns was racist. And I was like, no, I don't buy that. I don't buy that. And then when like Ray says Walter Amada, Asian man, very accomplished Asian American, is took down a black man's credibility. I'm like, oh. Like if I went after O.J. Simpson, they're like, Jack Sheriff went after a black man's credibility. And I'm talking about O.J. or Bill Cosby. Like at that point, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't be like, oh, he's going after O.J. or Bill. Not that I'm saying Ray's like that, but I'm saying that Walter is a company man and he has to protect his company. And so this John Rogovan, that's not your lawyer, that's their lawyer. And
Yeah, I agree with Landon.
still need to know what was said by Jeff Johns.
I mean, the thing is also like,
and Joss Whedon told douchebag, but I still don't buy that he's a racist because Joss Whedon created black characters in Firefly, in Angel, in Buffy. Great black characters in an era on a network that was mostly white. Like if you watch the WB back then, which is now the CW, it was like 90% white. He introduced black characters into those shows that were just phenomenally written. I'm talking about the female Slayer that joins Buffy in season 2. I'm talking about Gunn and Angel, who was a great character.
I'm sure you can look up. Hold on, I'm gonna look.
Yeah, he did say that. I'm not black. I'm OJ. Did you ever see the People versus OJ? And
Yeah.
and they're having a barbecue like in L.A. They're like, well, he's getting chased by the cops. He's black now. I'm like, but of course they're saying it to each other, and I was like, oh, that's funny. But what I'm saying is like you wouldn't say that like, oh, it's a black, like it's your credibility, Ray. And I still need to know, like, did they sign NDAs, I guess? Like, I still need to know what specifically was the racial aspect. Because I think with Joss Whedon, what he said was like they lightened up his image, but I feel like they did that to everyone. Like I have 3 lights on me right now because I have darker skin. And this is what I would look like. And so I have 3 lights on me. Ta-da! So William Powell says, Jeff Johns has impersonations that really blunt the fact that he's an excellent storyteller. Yeah. Not a racist, but I think they have a generic and oftentimes offensive point of view when it comes to black actors and roles. But even with Jeff Johns, I mean, he's married to a black woman. I can't imagine someone like would hate.
I'm trying to find like the big.
Like if someone said to me like, "Oh, Indian people are like this. This is how we do things," I'd be like, "Well, that's not true." Or like said about race, you'd be like, that's like to me like kind of racist. Like, oh, all black women change their hair all the time. Well, maybe some of them do, some of them don't. And the fact that he's married to a black woman, I feel like he's coming from a place of like, that's not true. Like you're just saying that because you're trying to get your hair changed every scene or whatever she wanted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Abraham. Like he's the reason every Marvel show sounds the way it does. That's the Joss Whedon thing. Except when Joss does it, it's actually better. Like the dialogue in the Avengers or like Firefly or Buffy or Angel, way better than when people try to imitate it. He is probably the most imitated writer. If you watch any movie nowadays, including Star Wars, J.J. Abrams does it with the way they talk, the sort of like sarcastic millennial, like the beginning of Force Awakens when Oscar Isaac's like, so what happens now? Do you talk? Do I talk? That's Joss Whedon. Like he didn't write that scene, but that's that style of writing. That's why Joss Whedon was such a phenomenon. Everyone was like, "Oh, who is this guy, Joss Whedon?" He's writing this quick-witted dialogue in a drama, and that was Joss. And now everyone does it. We all do it. Oh, look at that, Jeff. Oh, he's so great. Look at that. He's just and is black. He's currently married to an Asian.
Hold on.
Maybe
Send
he
this
stole
tweet
from
to you,
Amada's
Jack.
sister. It's all in the family. But yeah, like I can't imagine that person being like a racist. I hate black people. I'm gonna marry a black woman. You ever watch Chris Rock? Chris Rock used to do a bit about I have an uncle, hates white people, married a white woman. It's like, listen, I get it. I'm a black man. I hate white people. I love my wife. She loves me. But if the revolution ever comes, I'm a killer first.
I think William says it best. Being married to a black woman doesn't necessarily mean you completely understand that particular. I understand that, but like you're still
he were to
living
go
your...
to his wife and say, "Honey, do all black women change their hair every day?" And she said, "No." Then whose point of view is correct? The actress who wants to have her hair changed, or his wife who's also a black woman? Like, do you see what I'm saying?
It's black woman versus black woman. Then it's black woman opinion versus black woman opinion. So but it doesn't matter what Jeff Johns thinks if the actress is requesting.
Yeah, but if it's his call at the end of the day, if he's like what is he, the showrunner or whatever, like he's gonna say no.
Well, he's not. I don't think he was the showrunner. I think he was just an executive producer who was just on there.
But like, I don't think again that generally.
I'm not a Jeff Johns supporter. I also don't like what Jeff Johns did, but I think at the same time, I think there is a lot of things that I disagree with how Ray Fisher with his way of doing these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, I'll put it to you this way, because it sounded like she was using the same way. If someone said, "Oh, it's my friend Bill McGillen's birthday, I'm gonna get him a T-shirt," and someone says, "Oh, he's Irish, they like to drink, get him whiskey," wouldn't you be like,
right?
What? Like you'd be like, no, that's not what the Irish are like, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, Jack, you don't understand the Irish point of view." Like you'd be like, no, that's just like, wrong.
But yeah.
Or if someone said like, "Oh, I'm going to Australia. Oh, they like kangaroos down there because they saw Crocodile Dundee once and they think that's what all Australians are like."
Yeah, I don't think the racist is not the right word. Culturally insensitive is on the general. I think that's the like he says.
Okay, that I agree with you.
Culturally,
does that mean he should be fired for that?
I don't. Culturally insensitivity is like everywhere in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's everywhere in Hollywood, and not only that, it's great comedy. Best comedy's culture. Oh, yeah. Hal, we're talking about Hal's like, what I miss? We're talking about racism. We're talking about.
But like, if every person that is culturally insensitive were to be like held accountable and fired, you have 50 to 75% of Hollywood gone.
And not only that, every person at some point, including you, including me, maybe not me, but everyone else has had some insensitive part of them. Like
I have said culturally insensitive stuff in my life. Not saying that like
you should hear the things I say about you guys when you're not around. No.
Yeah, like you should hear what I say about Jack all the time. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's like, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say.
Okay, so can I give you an example? I had a very good friend of mine. He was Ukrainian, right? He was first generation. He had a little bit of an accent, right? And he was Ukrainian. I was Pakistani. We both had applied business statistics junior year of college. He would call me a dirty raghead terrorist, and I would call him a Russian communist bastard. And we would just talk to each other like that.
Culturally insensitive, Jack.
Exactly. No, but we knew each other.
No,
like, hey, Jack, you're not planning to blow up any buildings today. I'm like, unless you Russians sell it to us, But that's just how it is. Not anymore. I don't do that anymore, but
No, but Jack, you should be fired from your job. You should not have a job anymore because you made that culturally insensitive joke.
I'm from Philly. This is how we talk to each other. Like not anymore.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter if you talk like that. It doesn't matter how you act. It doesn't matter because you are being culturally insensitive, and I don't like it. Keep my wife's name out your fucking.
Okay, so let's get to that. Okay, because I have a bone to pick.
I was
here because he's sick.
I was trying to transition to the Dave Chappelle thing.
Yes. Right? Okay. Yeah. So, let's talk about that because a couple of weeks ago, when that incident happened, he slapped him. I said I'm kind of worried this will lead to a trend, and Austin literally went like, "Oh my God, Jack! Oh my! Think about what you're saying." And if you think I'm being overly dramatic, that is exactly how I reacted. And I was trying to make the larger point that we are, oh my God, why is it that these photos look amazing and when I upload them, they look terrible? Okay, you know what? We're going to do
Because
this.
it's you.
It's just these stupid web files. You try to convert them so you people have a nice picture to look at. But you know what? You look at that pixelated photo. I said this. We are in an era in the last 5 or 6 years where if we hear something we don't like, it's not enough to disagree with or have a conversation about. We have to get violent. And I said that I saw this happening, unfortunately, the last few years on both sides. The only difference is one side gets called out for it. When he made a joke, and I think and our colleague Ty at Pop Culture Corner said that Chris Rock deserved it. I'm like, dude, it's a joke in a comedy setting. Can a joke have bad taste? Absolutely, because she had alopecia. Now, I didn't know that, but still, bad taste. Now, does this have to do with this? No. But the guy literally went on stage and tackled him, maybe because he didn't hear anything. Maybe he didn't like him. Maybe he didn't like. And then I think Dave Chappelle joked that maybe he was trans. You know, but this is going to be a problem. Where and this is another incident happened where Jason Sudeikis' ex-wife Olivia Wilde, I think, like the guy just walked up on the stage and handed her like divorce papers, like she's over there presenting. He's like, Olivia Wilde, here you go.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that person just walked into cinema. Like, okay, William had
Stop
the best
texting me. Sorry,
William had the best take on this whole situation.
Yeah.
That security. I said this also to William and RJ, is that security going from like actual security in like actual places is bad now, and security in keeping things intact and keeping things a secret is also bad right now. And security in the physical form that we have right now is very bad in the sense that we have people just walking in places with weapons. We have people coming into people unannounced.
So if that's the case, shouldn't the security guards have weapons? You know where I'm going with this. No,
Well, I'm saying because look at the Hollywood Bowl in every in LA. The thing is, LA is like at Hollywood Bowl, Staples Center. Well, now it's called the Crypto.com Center, whatever the fuck. But at LA Convention Center, security guards and security there is like LAX. It's like an airport security where it's like metal detector, wand, pat down. Crazy. And
no. Hold on a second, real quick. I'm not saying he normalized it. I'm saying this is a pattern that's been going on for a while.
This has
like,
been
look what happened on January 6th, right? You didn't like you didn't like the election? Oh, we're gonna go storm the Capitol. Like, right. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works.
I mean, and the crazy thing is like, also crazy enough is like, at work we were just talking about this a couple weeks ago, and talking about T.I., who's now going to comedy, and to like, and he was at a comedy show, and a female comedian was talking about
rapper, right? Like, you could have whatever you
want. And
I love that song. You could have.
And the comedian that was standing up doing the stand up was saying something, was joking around about T.I., and T.I. was like, no, and jumped on stage, was like, you can't be saying that shit about me, and like, but I'm like, but that's what the stand-up comedians are doing there. That's what if you watch every stand-up comedy on like at bars,
every joke at its core is offensive to someone. So if I say, Caden, don't answer this, but like you say, hey, Caden, I got a joke for you. And now you ask, what's the joke? Why did the chicken cross the road? And you ask why. And I said, to get to the other side. That joke is saying the punchline of that joke is that you're so stupid you didn't think of the answer. It's a joke. Now you say, are you insulting my intelligence? I actually thought you were asking me a riddle. How was I supposed to know you wanted a simple answer? All of a sudden that can become a thing. It's a stupid joke. But this goes back to Dave, to Bill Burr, and Bill Maher. Honestly, Bill Maher's like the only person, like, I love listening to him, but like he's been like saying like, yo, we I don't know what you guys politically, but like us liberals, we were the ones the conservatives would be like, you can't talk about that, and the liberals were like, yeah, we are. We created South Park, we created Family Guy, we created Ellen, we created Will and Grace. You don't like it, we're gonna put it on your TV screen. You don't want to watch it, tough shit, don't watch it. And now it seems to be the opposite. Like, people just overreact. Like, if you watch Dave's last special, okay, he admits that he believes what they call TERF, like trans exclusionary radical feminist. All right, but like the heartfelt story he told, I don't think you could watch that and say, oh, he's transphobic. But I think that this is what these people say. They want him attacked. They want him removed from Netflix. Netflix is like, oh, he makes us like tens of millions of dollars, and people laugh at his jokes. I mean, did you see Dave's stand up on Saturday Night Live the weekend Biden got elected? He basically makes fun of white people for like 20 minutes, and they're laughing. It's like, yeah, we get it.
I mean, that's the thing with like the comedians like Dave Chappelle, like Chris Rock, like Jamie Foxx and all those like comedians. They challenge you.
Yeah.
They're challenging comedians. Should their opinions be 100% validated and agreed upon? Not really. No, I like sure whatever. If you want to agree with them.
Yeah.
But it's their opinions that they're joking about.
Yeah. But like, even if they play on a stereotype, you ever heard of Patrice O'Neill?
Yeah.
He does this whole bit about my people. So you go into 7-Eleven, they'd be like, $10 for 20. Right. He's like, man, I know I'm a racist, but man, they'll be cursing N-words out. Like, no, something smaller than. And I'm dying laughing. I'm dying laughing. I think that's funny. I'm like, yeah, it's true. He's like, they'll be cursing. He says the N-word, like N-word people out. In Brooklyn at 2 a.m. at a gas station. I'm like, yeah. So I laughed at it.
But the crazy thing is, okay, like going back to Dave Chappelle. So do you have the video of the or do you?
No, I don't have it. If you can look for it, I'm going to address this too. Yeah, no, again, that's true. But to be fair, the books they're talking about. Not that I agree with it, but they don't think that children should be reading books that talk about gender identity.
I'm trying to say is
that's what it is. They're not trying to ban it from all libraries. For example, we had in my school we had a children's library. You wouldn't find, let's say, The Dark Knight Returns in there. Like you go to major libraries, they will have a comic book collection. You wouldn't find The Dark Knight Returns, or you wouldn't find like 50 Shades of Grey in there. And then you can't turn around and say, oh, the school administration is trying to ban books. Like, no, they just don't want a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old to pick up 50 Shades of Grey. Mama, why does this girl like getting tied up and whipped? Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's different.
I was just watching a video on TikTok where this dude interviews people like at like conservative rallies and stuff. And basically, so hold on, I'm gonna let you listen to the audio though. Okay. It's like before we move on to this.
Okay. All right. Let me pause this then.
Yeah. So.
Critical race theory. Bullshit. All it does is imbue more racism. You heard about they took down another Confederate statue the other day. I haven't kept up on those. It doesn't surprise me at all. Can you imagine if your culture's history was completely eradicated? Let me put it this way. I would, we've got plenty of cultures who've been completely eradicated. I mean, look at us. We kind of came over and destroyed the Native Americans. That's not something they want to talk about. What they're like is, oh, this is Native American land that the white man stole from them. So what are we going to do? Give it back? No, let's invite the rest of the world to share it with you. Like, no, if anything, so give it back to them. No, we give it back to them. They want everybody to pour into America. So because we stole this land. Instead of teaching, bad history, just give the Native Americans their land back. Yeah. Is that okay? If you're gonna bitch about that, then you have to follow through. You can't, and that's the stuff that people are getting upset about. Hey.
So he's just basically explaining
that guy's a moron. You know what? I'll say it. I'm not for that. I believe in giving them a little help and stuff, but like, first of all, this happened Caden,
I know.
You live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Are you gonna like move out with your family and go back to? I don't know. Your parents are biracial, so which country would you go to?
Well,
I don't believe that.
My mom's side is Native American, and is like the white Native American.
What I would say is to that, every country at some point, is displaced.
It was just that like it was.
Now, for the Confederate statues thing, I have always said, I understand the Southern position. Like, they'll say, oh, it's part of our heritage. Okay. You go to England, they still have statues of Henry VIII or even the corrupt kings. That's different. Okay, I get that. That being said, you're celebrating someone who was a proponent of slavery. My question is, why would you support that person and say, "Oh no, it wasn't about slavery"? This is what there's a lot of Southern revision, like, "Oh, the Southern War wasn't about slavery." I'm like,
right. It was the Civil War was definitely about slavery.
It definitely was about slavery. And,
Yeah.
and look, I think Robert E. Lee, fascinating character. I think Stonewall Jackson, Southern general, utterly fascinating person. He was on the wrong side, but I think he's a fascinating person to learn about in the same way you learn about Genghis Khan. These statues are more recent, and they definitely apply to us. Like, you won't go to Germany and see statues of Hitler and say, well, he's part of our history, so we left it up. You can't. Nope.
No.
Nothing. The attacks on academic free speech by targeting French post-society race by labeling them critical race theory. The problem is they themselves can't tell us what critical race theory is. That's the issue. And then they say the academics. My problem with critical race theory isn't that they're teaching history. My problem with it is the conclusions they come to. The conclusion is that, yes, there's systemic racism, and therefore the sort of the implication is that white people owe something. White people alive today owe something because of past atrocity. That I don't agree with. I think you should be judged for who you are. So if, like, I don't know, like, you know,
the way I see
a friend who's white and his great grandmother was a slave owner, like, that's not his fault. And that's kind of like a weird original religious way of looking at, like, you carry your father's sin. I don't believe that. Any person of color that's doing well in America has been a beneficiary of white colonialism. So all the evils that were committed in the name of white colonialism, the eradication of the Native Americans, stealing Texas from Mexico, basically Mexico, Arizona, Utah, that was all Mexico, stealing all that. That's where you live, Kate, in Southern California. You bastard, give it back to Mexico. You're not going to do that, are you? Anyway, but even the Mexicans, they're not really an original people. They were basically taken over. There used to be a different group of people there. They were invaded by the Spanish and basically changed the entire race of that people. I don't believe in correcting for history for that, because I would say that me doing this podcast using the capitalist system that afforded me a computer screen and a microphone that Ty provided, you know, I'm a beneficiary of that. So I can't then turn around at, well, you're not white. Who's white?
Ty.
Yeah, Ty. Ty's white. Or Enosh. You know, Enosh, I'm entitled to stuff because you're from Michigan and you're white. Like, no, that's not how I feel. I don't think little children should be taught that, like, oh, you know, that, okay, yeah, you should be taught about racism. And I don't know which schools you people were going to where they're not teaching about racism. I'll tell you what it is. You're not paying attention. Because when people will say to me, like, do you remember, did you ever hear what happened to Native Americans? I'm like, yeah. Like, did they teach us that in school? I'm like, yeah, they did. You just weren't paying attention.
Yeah, they did teach us.
You weren't paying attention when they were talking about that.
In 5th through 7th grade, there's a whole, like, unit. Well, in 5th grade, there's a whole chapter. And then 6th grade, there's, like, 2 chapters. And then 7th grade, there's a whole unit on Native Americans, like, displacement and trauma. And you know,
like,
the Trail of Tears.
My school was all white. It was just me and 2 black kids. That was it. Everyone else was white. And we learned about this stuff. The problem is kids don't remember. Kids are stupid. Chris Rock put it best. This is America. You got 5 smart kids and you got 5 dumb kids, and everyone else is in the middle. America is a country built on the middle, you know. And most kids will be like, well, I never knew that. I'm like, dude, we just learned that in class, because that's not where their heads are.
But William says
smart kids and the dumb kids is the smart kids have their parents talking to them about this stuff at home. And the dumb kids, their parents are like not talking about these issues at home. So like when they come home, school's over. There's no intellectualism at home. They're not talking about race or foreign policy. I remember when I was a kid, if someone was on anything like, Dad, well, what's happening in Bosnia? Like, that was something that was happening when I was a kid. And my dad would explain that. He'd be like, oh, right now, basically there's ethnic cleansing going on because Slobodan Milosevic doesn't believe Muslims should have a right to live, and he's killing them. So, that was my life. So when I was in school, I was more engaged. Most kids, their parents are like, Bosnia? Is that some kind of donut? You know, and they don't learn about that. So they skip over. So they don't remember that they learned about slavery. Abraham Lincoln was a huge deal. Like, if you're in any school, they taught you about Abraham Lincoln. They taught you about U.S. Grant. And like, people are like, wow, I didn't know General Grant was so important to civil rights. I'm like, yes, they taught us that in school. You weren't paying attention. General Grant was the first civil rights president. He destroyed the Ku Klux Klan.
I was just telling my aunt this, that even I was like watching videos recently. It was like,
Well, this is where I got to jump. So this is where I get a little bit. The United States is not the first country to have legalized discrimination. When people say that our discrimination and racism is uniquely unique, I really got to disagree with you there. That's not true. In fact, my family's from Pakistan. Pakistan used to be part of India. They still have elements of the caste system. What was the caste system? Okay, Caden, you're really dark skinned. You're what we call an untouchable, and therefore you're not good looking. Austin, he has lighter skin, so he's in a better caste system. You are in the caste system that you belong to. Go back to Europe. If you're Jewish, they didn't like you. They used to have aristocratic systems and all. The French Revolution, you had your first estate, your second estate, your third estate. Discrimination and the eradication of races, people pretend that's something that started here. I would say this is where it ended. Europe was still doing this stuff. Asia is still doing this. In Africa, it's happening right now. Africa might be the place where it's the worst, where you have class discrimination and you have tribal discrimination based on where you're from. It's very, very common. Like, we tend to pretend that ours is very unique. It's just that because we're the biggest country in the world, so people tend to think, biggest meaning like economically, financially, socially, people tend to think that these are somehow unique to us. Even now in Pakistan, which even though it's a Muslim country, the caste system is not supposed to be in Islam, but culturally it's there because we used to be part of India. And so, like, this idea that like it's now that civil rights and everything, South Africa, apartheid, you know. So going back to Dave Chappelle, sorry.
yeah. Back to Dave Chappelle. If you go to the 35 or the 30-second mark on that video, it shows the tackle moment.
Oh, let me just address this. This is a good question. We can't ignore the gap that was created by saying it was 200 years ago to happen. Do we get those 200 backs? The answer is no. Unfortunately, even look what happened with the Jews in the Holocaust. There's no way really to bring those lives back. But what can happen, and the Germans gave money to Jewish people like as reparations. It's like, is there really like a dollar amount that can solve that? But what I would say is that in the last 10 years or so, the doors are opening. Like, now we're seeing more people of color in film, television, and movies. And white people are surprised, like, wow, we didn't know people would watch a movie like Black Panther. And I'm saying, yeah, they would have, maybe even 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's just that you in Hollywood didn't think they would. Pop quiz, Caden Reed. Who was the highest paid actor of the 1980s? Could you guess?
The first actor that came to head was Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, no. Eddie Murphy.
Oh, wow.
80s. Yeah, he was the highest paid actor of the 80s. And so based off that, you would say, okay, so people are comfortable seeing black people or people of color on the screen. Why haven't we done it more? It's because Hollywood, while they've preached wokeness, they don't want to practice it. And so I think in today's culture, we preach wokeness, but a lot of it's gesturing.
Ding, you're wrong, because it was Jane Fonda.
No, that's not right. Jane Fonda was the highest paid actor in the 80s? Who told
Yeah.
me that? What the hell was she getting paid for? That's not right. That is not right. Highest paid actor, 80s. Jane Fonda? No, that's not right. That's the highest grossing stars. That means their movies made the most money, I guess. 443.60. I'm talking about per film. He was getting big money. He was huge in the 80s.
Wait, yeah. So I'm looking at the list. It was Harrison Ford, then Eddie Murphy.
Oh, really? So Harrison Ford. Oh, you know what? Because Indiana Jones and 2 Star Wars movies came out. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
And then Sylvester
look what happened in
Stallone.
Rwanda in the 90s. So that was the Tutsis and the Hutus and the Tutsis. Somalia, Black Hawk Down. Look what was happening there. These things we tend to pretend like it's very easy to say, oh, white colonialism did that. And yes, it did. But like, that's not, we try to pretend like that's the only place it's happening. Even now in Asia, there is severe discrimination, not on a sometimes legal level, but on a cultural level. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist here on a cultural level, but I'm still saying that we tend to act like it's the worst over here. And I'm saying, actually, no, it's not. It's way worse everywhere else. He served in the UK. Oh, really? So my uncle was in Somalia with the Ibrahim, which country was your dad from? Because my family's from Pakistan. My uncle was in the I forgot what his unit's name was. They were part of the UN peacekeepers who were in Somalia when the whole Black Hawk Down thing happened. He was young though. Like that was the one where at the end they called the UN to help try to get the soldiers out. My uncle always told me that story. I had no idea what he was talking about because I was a little kid. And then I'm like, oh, Black Hawk Down. That's what he's talking about. But like my point is, okay, do you know how to get rid of this thing at the bottom?
What?
Where it says can't post comments because then I can't read them. Maybe Eddie Murphy, yeah.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Okay, so William, like, what would you say then would be the solution to that then? Is it to like, I guess, like, do we do it by, let's say, okay, we remove a bunch of white people from these jobs, fill them with people of color, that will fix things? Or like, that's the $1 million, $64,000 question. The solution to that, I don't know what that is. Yeah, it's true. You know, I said something interesting. I thought it was profound. I said African-American culture is the only culture that is really, really, truly American. Someone said, what about Native American? I said, true, but Native Americans had their culture before, you know, we got here, before the West got here, you know. But if you think about it, every white culture in America, even today, is derivative of a European thing, whether it's Irish, Italian, Germans. Most white Americans are Germans, British, you know, everything is kind of disseminated from there. Do you get what I'm saying?
If you want me to invite William onto the thing, since
no,
but yeah,
but okay. So, however, African Americans, first of all, they don't know. Most of them don't know where they came from because they were taken. Their ancestors were taken.
Oh yeah.
So everything they had to come up with, whether it's gospel, the blues, jazz, and now hip hop, to the stuff.
It's a melting pot of all.
No. They had to come up with it from scratch.
Yeah.
They don't know their ancestors, or if they did, they lost it by within 2 or 3 generations. So everything up until including modern day hip hop and everything is uniquely American, meaning it came out of here. Every person who's white, chances are some aspect of your culture, the way you live your life comes from a European thing. You trace it back to, oh, my great grandparents were Dutch, my mom's side they were Irish, and there are traditions you're carrying on from there. Well, those traditions were completely severed for the Black people who were brought to America. So everything they have created, it is uniquely American. Native American culture already existed before Chris Columbus even got here, right? But it's uniquely American, and that is something cool. By the way, you want to know how someone's a racist? It's not when they say they hate rap music. Is if they say they don't like rap music, but then they'll say they like Vanilla Ice. I'm like, gotcha.
I heard someone say that one time.
They're like, I have Quizzo, and I'll
they're
play.
They're like, I like Vanilla Ice. He's the only good rapper, or he's.
Oh yeah,
I like Vanilla Ice because
we have this older group of people who play Quizzo, and every time I play a rap song, I'll put like some Tupac for trivia. And like, what's this Tupac? You know, they're like, oh, we don't like this rap music. But then Ice Baby comes on. They're like, Ice Baby, done. I'm like, that's like the worst rap song. By the way, it was the first rap song to reach #1 of the Billboards. But I'm like, I gotcha. Yeah, wow. That was the first rap song to reach #1 at the Billboards.
The Billboard's racist.
Baby. No, it's just that because
I know.
What happened was there was a lot of other white people who weren't listening to rap. Like, I feel comfortable listening to this because I know he's probably from the suburbs. So
I can't tell if he's here or not here because
my dad grew up
he
in
is here.
Northern Ireland.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
hey, what's
I was
up, dude?
conceived in Ireland.
Didn't want to invade your screen, but I couldn't answer that question in a tight.
Okay, come on in because honestly, today's show is just I have really nothing except Dave Chappelle, Doctor Strange, and I have nothing to say about Doctor Strange until.
I'm seeing it tonight. So
yeah.
The first thing you have to do is legally. That's the most important thing to do if you're going to erase this gap, because right now you have a system that was based on a system that was hundreds of years old and literally a constitution that was created without us as a full person. And you have a representative situation that does not represent any person of color anywhere. Just the electoral college, the way senators are going, the majority of the country lives in cities and places where there are multiracial consequences. Yet the places that do not have those multiracial consequences out in the middle of nowhere have as much power to dictate how we live than anything else. So that's got to change, because when that changes, you get different laws, you get different congressmen, and from the ground up, you get different assemblymen. So that's the biggest, most important thing that you could do to solve the situation, because right now we're held accountable by these laws, by penal systems and everything else, but we don't have access to the same type of representation, and that's a problem. There's 40 million people that live in California. There's another, 30 million that live in the state of New York, okay? You have minorities and people of colors that make up the bulk of these big cities, that make up the bulk of the access of income. You take New York and California out of the American financial equation, you take away 37% of all consumables, right, out of those cities. And those are multiracial cities. But yet we can't get a voting rights thing passed because we don't have electoral and we don't have senatorial representation.
Well, I was going to say that isn't that what the House of Representatives was created for? That's why James Madison wanted it that way. So, okay, so that way, like, let's say Iowa has the same Senate presence as New York, but then New York and California would have way more Congress people. Like, I think those Midwestern states, they all have like 2 Congress people. Like Philadelphia, I think, has 3 just on our
Correct.
Own. Yeah.
But you need both. Unfortunately, the lower house and the higher house. If it were just the House of Congress and the representatives passing laws, but you need the Senate. And whereas the House of Representatives is more proportionally represented, the Senate is not. Wyoming gets the same amount of senators as California. Wyoming has literally, in Montana, places in Montana that literally have 1 million people living in the whole state, has as much representation in the Senate chambers as New York, California, Chicago, the places that if you eliminated them, the country does not move. All these factories and stuff that exist in the South, in places where we've had issues for 150 years, all those factories, BMW factories, South Carolina, all that, 37% of everything that these people in these flyover counties produce gets consumed by us, gets consumed by the big cities. Yet there's no representation. And when there's no representation, when you don't have the consequences of living with a multicultural society, when you're living out in places where it's 1% of people of color, the consequences of the laws that affect us are just another news story to you. So the representation on a legal basis is the most important thing, and on an electoral basis, that's how you solve that. I'm not telling people who live here now, white people who are living with us now, that it's all your fault. But at the same time, we cannot go forward as this whole idea if we're going to, be ignorant of what happened. You have to address the fact that, like I said, we've been part of the country since there was a country. We've served in every black folks served in every war that America has fought. I'm 3rd generation military. We're not guests in the club. We help build the club. But if you look at the representation, it's not like that. And we don't talk about it until there's a riot, until somebody gets killed. By that time, the body bags have already been zipped up, and now we're fighting again. So we don't use those those times in between to fix the situation.
Well,
right
do
now,
you think that there's a problem? Let's say, so for example, people of color tend to vote Democrat, that the DNC is not doing a good enough job of bringing people of color? Because I would say the last 5 years, especially post-Obama, we've seen a lot of people of color, like AOC, what they call the squad, like Rashida Tlaib, like people who are not just people of color, but first-generation people of color. Do you see that that's starting to – I feel like it's starting to change. Like we're seeing different people of color. A lot of people don't realize that Dr. Oz is Turkish. I just learned that, but he looks white, so he gets away with it.
It's wonderful to see in the House of Representatives, but once again, it's the Senate that puts these judges forward. It's the Senate. We're having a situation right now where we have a Supreme Court situation that the House of Representatives has nothing to do with, passing voting rights law, filibusters, things like that. The filibuster, a rule that was put in place and used very effectively during the civil rights era to try to keep the civil rights bill from being pushed forward. So you have all these things in the Senate that were pretty much, if you look back at the laws and the way they were ingrained to keep certain people in positions of power. Now,
you're right. But I would say with the filibuster, let's say come this November, they're estimating the Republicans are going to take the Senate and the House back. And in 2 years, let's say we have a Republican president, whether it's Trump or DeSantis, and they have a 51-52 majority in the Senate. As a Democrat, I'd be like, oh, thank God the filibuster's there. Because otherwise they'd be passing the craziest laws. Like right now, it's a detriment because the Democrats are trying to pass laws. But on the other way, it's an asset. So someone like, let's say Trump comes in, DeSantis comes in, or whoever comes in, if they want to pass really radical laws, that filibuster protects that.
See, that is true in the spirit of the filibuster, but the problem is when how you apply it. There are carve-outs to how you can apply a filibuster. When it comes to civil rights and equal representation, that should not be subject to a filibuster one way or another. Now, when you're trying to exclude somebody, that's different. But when you're trying to include somebody, they're lawmakers. You can make laws. They did carve-outs to put certain judges on. So you can do a carve-out when it comes to inclusion. The problem here is they don't. And listen, it's not necessarily outright racism. Not everybody that voted for Trump was a racist. Not every white person that wears a MAGA hat was racist. But here's what it is, and doesn't get brought up enough. The fear, they have seen how people of color have lived in this country. You know what? And we're doing fine. But we've lived in this country, not one white person would trade their places with us to live our history. Okay. And now you are seeing with the eventuality, the inevitability of within our lifetime that people of color from all different ethnicities might be in the majority. Now, you don't have to be a racist to fear that. You just have to see how we've been treated your entire lifetime to know that, do I want that for my kids? Do I want my kids having to have a conversation about policing? Do I want my kids to have a conversation about voting rights? All these things that we were, wasn't an issue with us is an issue now because it can now affect us. You don't have to be a racist to be fearful of that. And that's where this comes from. They have seen the history of how things have gone, and they're like, that could be me now. But I'm here to tell everybody, you're going to be okay. I've been in the minority for all my life. And all right, we did okay. So if you are in the minority, it's not like we're going to be, it's not going to be Amish style where we take over the ship and we start treating white people like trash. I don't buy into that vision of America. And I think the last people who are going to push forward that vision of America are people who have been on the brunt of it have been done the wrong way for so long and the consequences of that. But legally, that's the main reason, because you cannot ignore the consequences of what happened. You can say slavery was 400 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago in the civil rights era, but it's not like Doctor Who. You don't get into the TARDIS and eliminate everything that happened in between. Me and you, I could be sitting across the table from a white guy and be best friends. We are still not living on equal circumstances. It's not his fault, but we still have to address it regardless to whose fault it is.
Yeah, I understand that. But here's the issue I've seen. Like, I've lived in Philly all my life. And what I see is the solution often is that, let's pump millions into the schools. Let's pump millions into programs to help people get there. And what blows my mind is that there's little advancement. And that's what makes no sense to me.
Because you need legislation. You can't, money without legislation is nothing. Mm-hmm. You have to, you can throw money at something. That's like me donating money to a cause. I'm one guy, but if I get everybody on board on that cause, then we've changed something. Money without legislation is just hot air. It's a temporary, it's a Band-Aid. But if I give money to a school, and who knows how that money's spent over the next 4 or 5 years. But if I pass laws making it a law that school, no matter where it is in that district, no matter what income rate it is, no matter what tax hold it is, that school gets equal representation, and you cannot screw a school in Harlem or you can't screw a school in Compton just because you like a school in Beverly Hills. If I pass then I no longer need to pump money into that school on a temporary basis. The law is that school is going to be represented. Mm-hmm. And that's what people don't understand. And everything that people are complaining right now could have been prevented by them getting involved in the political system. Nobody wants to talk politics until the boulder falls on your head. Now is the time to talk about it. Learn who your councilman is, your city. You don't like police violence against black folks? Are you voting for the assemblyman and the mayor and a lot of the people who appoint those people? Are you voting for the sheriff in your county? Get involved in those situations and find out where the money is going. Don't make it so that we have to wait for somebody to donate money to an underprivileged school. Make it the law that every damn public school in any area gets equal footing. Because now
here's the other issue that becomes a problem, and this is one of the reasons my parents didn't want me in public school, is that if you have bad teachers, they have a powerful union that backs them. There is a lot of schools that have terrible, terrible teachers that are protected by teachers unions. So if you go to a private school, the teachers
that's a political answer though, because who negotiates union contracts? Mm-hmm. Get involved, and that is they're not. It's not like the Taliban where they just take over. Union people get voted in. A city, assemblyman, mayoral people, governors, they negotiate these contracts. So when you vote and when you get involved in that process, you're involved in putting someone at the table that speaks for you. If you think you got a horrible union, you got crappy teachers, you can change that. You can change that union gets stipend, that union gets city money.
Sorry about that. My dad came in. I was listening though.
No, but everything you just brought up, there is a political end to it that people just don't get involved in. We get involved on the back end of things. We get involved on the result end of things. We don't get involved with the process of actually getting involved. If you don't like the way the Supreme Court judges, I guarantee you most of the people who have a problem with any Supreme Court issue right now did not vote when it came time to vote for a senator that could have made that decision. Mm-hmm. And that the statistics bear that out. And black folks too. Listen, there's a good percentage of my people that don't vote. And I have people that share the same blood as me that don't vote. And I have nothing but contempt for them for that matter, in that particular matter. If you're black and you don't vote, dude, I can't even look at you sometimes. And I had to talk to people that have the same last name as me. And at a dinner table that we're eating, I almost got up and walked out on the table because that's how much contempt I have for you. If you've been a part of this country at any point in time that you don't understand that you're part in it, they would love nothing for you to sit back on the sidelines and let them take over. Get involved in the process. Everything you just brought up is something.
I would say that here's what I've noticed, and this is a question that a lot of Asian Americans, especially in Philly, have. You have Asian kids go to the same schools as the black kids. Most of the schools are all black. They will exceed, and unfortunately the black kids will get left behind. And then our question is, well, what happened there? Why is it the Asian kids are getting ahead? And number one, it comes back down to the family. And then that gets to another issue. A lot of men are incarcerated over stupid things.
Like for weed. I got
dumb
12%
things.
Black population in jail for weed.
Yeah. And then you also have a lot of times it's just a single mother raising the kids and she's working. How much time does she have working 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day to come home and then also police the kids? So for lack of a better word, like take care of the kids, and is actually not as involved in the kid's life. And that's where it goes back to the systemic thing that a lot of people don't understand. And it's complex because I think a lot of people are looking for simple solutions. And I guess what I'm thinking is I don't know if there is a simple solution.
No, it's a complex solution.
Yeah.
You just got to be willing to engage it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to engage it, and you have to look at the entire situation and its relevancy. You can't say that you're going to solve these issues without bringing up the start thing of those issues. A lot of the things that the family dynamic throughout the hundreds of years has been broken up and put in situations that a lot of that causes that. And depending on where you are, if you were lucky enough, like I grew up on an Air Force base where I have everything I needed. My dad was lucky enough to be able to pass a physical, join the Air Force, join the military, and spread that generation on. Not every black person had that. In the Plainfield, New Jersey, where he grew up, he was able to get out of there. He got lucky. He was part of the 1% that could ever do that. What happens to those 99% that are born into a situation that is generationally handed down? If you were born in a city that has been underserved and underprivileged, you're not a wizard that can come in and wave a wand and change that. That is really hard to change. So that, once again, representation, a legal situation, who's representing those areas. If those people aren't doing a good job, they need to be getting involved in the process of getting someone else new. I walk up to so many people right now here that don't even know who their congressman is. Mm-hmm. They have all the complaints in the world about the situation. They don't know who their assemblyman is. They don't want police violence, but they don't know who their mayoral candidate and who sits on the city council and what the process is to remove it, or the fact that they can actually go down there and sit in on these meetings, that it's their right to be involved in this process. So education is the one thing. I think if you have a poor educational system, a lot of people aren't going to know this system. I grew up knowing our political system, but a lot of people don't. But there is a political end to that, and you have to use political leverage too.
I would say the thing about the education system, I think this is something we in America get wrong, and is that education starts in school. I say it starts at home. If you don't have education starting at home, meaning the parents that are telling kids to read books and not play video games, something as small as that affects how they are at school. As I was telling Caden earlier, like you'll have kids, they learn something in school, they go home, tell mom and dad about it. Mom and dad don't either know about it or don't care. They're involved in their own world. And so whatever they learn in school goes right out their ear. And then you have kids who like I was lucky enough, like, okay, you learned something in school, you asked dad about it. You know, like what happened in Bosnia, or you know, that was big when I was growing up as a little kid. There was this, you know, the whole thing in Kosovo and Bosnia and all that stuff. He would tell me what was going on, and then he would tell me to read something, you know. And I said, that's where it started. That's where you start, because if you're being educated by the teachers and not the parents as well, you have an intellectual gap there. So that, and I noticed this in college.
It doesn't start there though, because guess what? A lot of that situation is caused by, you know, I was lucky. I knew my dad was going to be all over the world, but a lot of people like, hey, dad's working 2 jobs, mom's working a job, come home, they do their thing. And video games is a newer thing in the last 15 or 20 years or so. But there are situations where, you know, like I said, the situation, the stress of that situation create situations that get handed forward. I mean, the present day result doesn't exclude the systemic road that led to that result. I mean, if you had poor schools and you say the education starts at home, but where does that person who's teaching that education at home, where does he get his structure from? So you have to go back to the point of, if you have an environment that is underserved, then it's going to produce people that are underserved, and hurt people. You know, it doesn't just, you know, if you're coming from that environment, you're going to pass that on the best you can, sometimes unintentionally. But like I said, I could have a neighbor across the street from base housing that's dad had to work at Walmart and Pet Boys to make ends meet because, you know, of a lot of systemic things, you know, while he's getting a degree or something like that. And me and that kid are hanging out. My dad's in the living room, you know, helping me with my homework after we're done. So we're in two. I got lucky. I think.
I guess what I'm saying is that, okay, let's say from the legislative perspective, we get public schools up to better standards. But if that other aspect isn't there of the families at home,
well, that's just one aspect. You have to have the schools. You have to have the representation in the job market. Obviously, that's a proven statistic as far as what we make in the market is versus equal job and equal footing. You have to have the housing. There's a lot. It's not just the education. It's an entire environment that has been underserved, and that leads to that. I mean, like I said, low-income housing, things like that that are generational things because of redlining and things like that were legally put into things that have to be addressed.
But you know, it's so complicated. For example, Gavin Newsom did something in California where they were going to build housing for the homeless. I'm like, finally, that's where you start. And it costs about $600,000 for a house. Now, here in Pennsylvania, $600,000, that buys you what they call those mini mansions, like those luxury homes, like those really like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I'm like,
the boxes. The boxes.
I don't know. No, they're called luxury homes. You ever seen Paranormal Activity?
I know what you're talking about, but in LA we call them box houses because they're shaped like a box.
Oh, okay. So, but what I'm saying is, like, first of all, I don't think the house that the ones are going to build for the homeless are going to be that nice. But all of a sudden, then that gets into the problem. Okay, what's your tax structure like? You're taxing a lot, but why is it that it's going to cost $600,000 to build a home for a homeless person? And then that goes into a whole other issue. Like
that's a legislative issue. That is a legislative issue, though, because that shouldn't be legal. And here's the problem: people, and it's got to come back on the taxpayers, because guess what? As poor as those people are, and some of those situations, some of those people are working and they're contributing into your sales tax system, so they're not being a beneficiary of the taxes they are able to pay. So once again, back to a legislative thing, I would call on Gavin Newsom to be like, listen, we're going to cap this out, because you've allowed a society to sprout around some of these people that they can never, ever have kept up in, you know, so you're excluding them. But once again, you want tax revenue from even the lowest income people. Guess who Walmart's biggest customers are? Low income people. You know what? They spend what they got at Walmart. Walmart's $1 billion corporation, but yet the people at the bottom of that are not beneficiaries of that. And they're on welfare. 33% of them are on welfare. Yeah. So the government is putting money into their pockets to put in the pockets of a billionaire. And most of the people are people of colors. And that goes back to a situation of the environment. They were produced by an environment that is very...
I guess that's where I want to get to about the environment. Do you think that part of the solution is that people of color, we have to sort of address our own issues? Because I feel like as long as we're waiting for the government or the legislation to fix those issues, they're never going to get fixed.
Well, they're not fixing it. So here's the thing: is that
but I don't think they would ever get.
We can do all the introspective
thrown at it.
Yeah, we could do all the introspective we want to, we still exist in a society, in a web that is not representing us as much as it's representing the other guy next to us. That is a problem. You cannot have a multiracial, multicultural democracy as long as you have that. We can cure, Black folks can cure every problem in the world introspectively. It doesn't matter if I'm not legally represented properly. It doesn't matter if the school that I'm in the neighborhood, and the house, and the property taxes, and everything that I do pay, what little I have, is not properly represented in the same state. That is a problem. It won't matter what I fix or what every Black person or man or woman, person of color fixes if that infrastructure is in place. If I'm getting gerrymandered out of being able to vote for my own congressman, that has nothing to do with me introspectively. If I have laws being put in place because my voting access is different, that has nothing to do with me as an individual or as even a generation. That's something, the only thing I can do with that is I have to get involved in the political process. But even then, you have things happening to where after 50 years, the Voting Act right was passed unanimously every term after another until a Black president got elected, and now we have it stalled in the last 6 or 7 years. That's a problem, because without that civil rights bill and that Voting Act bill, there are people that can screw me out of my right to access to vote.
Could you explain that? 'Cause one of the things I've been hearing a lot about is that it's becoming harder for people of color to vote, and I'm in the city. I'm like, how? I know where I have to go to vote.
I wish everybody was informed.
I've kind of jumbled with my friends on the left is the idea that we got to get rid of voter ID. And I'm like, why? How is it hard to get an because my parents are immigrants. Mom doesn't speak English. They learned, if we got to get ID, the first thing you do, you get a green card, a worker's permit, you get an ID, whether it's a license or something like that. You got to get your, my sister, she wanted to get a real ID, and it was a process, but she just learned how to do it. I'm like, all right, you got to get yourself a copy of your birth certificate and a copy of your social security card. And there's this thing I've heard that African Americans don't have ID. I'm like, based on what? I live in a Black
country.
Everyone has ID.
No, they don't. And I'm congratulations on being in Philly. It's a great city.
Yeah,
but it's not the South. It's not places. You never had a problem in Philly that the people in the South and some of these marginalized places have had. I grew up in LA. I never had that problem. Here's a problem, though. I have relatives in Oklahoma. There are so many ways for generations that people have lived 50, 60, 70 years to verify themselves. So, without that. And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of older women in the South don't. And here's the thing about that. Whether you want to agree or not that whether somebody should be able to get it, these assholes, what they did is they looked at the demographics. They did studies. They looked at what affected souls to the polls, eliminating things on Sunday where they knew it. They didn't just do it because they were looking for some great equilibrium of law. They did it because they looked at the stats and they attacked those demographics. And there was a reason. It's not by accident that we had the Voters Act in there to begin with. It was there for a reason. It was there for a reason. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be there.
Voters Act, right?
What's up? 1965.
65.
And actually in the 64 bill. So these things were in place for a reason, and because you had marginalized community, LA, California, not a problem. But guess what? I don't live on an island, and these other people are parts. And that's what I mean is if you're going to try to do that when you didn't have that problem before, when you didn't have evidence of anything before it. So my question is, anybody who brings up any of this stuff is, how the hell did we get through all these years without that situation? But all of a sudden circumstances change, and one big one changed, and now we need voter ID. And it goes back to that fear of if we have that access, we're going to change how this thing looks. We're going to change.
So why not create a system politically where, because I was part of the Obama campaign. That was my first election where I was old enough to vote. The grassroots movement. Why don't we do something where we do help people of color get? You don't know how to get an ID, a state ID. We're going to help you get it, because a lot of people don't have access to internet and don't know how to do something.
We did that. We did that. But then what they did? Now we're gonna, and it's dirty. It is very sinister. It is sinister. Now we're going to eliminate polls where we know people don't have access. We know that we did a start. We know minority people and Black people in Mississippi in this particular district. That's the only way they can vote is that get to that poll. We're going to close that polling house down. We're going to limit the hours, and we know this is a science, and they executed that science, and that's why the Voter Act was in place, because that's what was happening before. Except it was more
you're saying this is happening in the South? Because I was going to say
this is happening in the South. happening in Georgia to a certain extent. That's why a lot of this stuff is going on. It's definitely happening in places like Alabama, Panama, all these places right there where it's either gerrymandering, which was the type of gerrymandering that was happening. You were allowed to gerrymander on political basis, but you were not allowed to do it on ethnicity. That was part of the voting. There's so many things that people don't understand that's happening, and it's happening as a response. You know, when you have to stop people from voting, you're a piece of shit. When you do things to stop people from voting, when your plan is such a crappy thing that you don't want that guy in on it. Oh, I don't want you. Don't look over here. When you have to do that, when you're not inclusive, you're a dirtbag. You're doing something wrong. It's like the Wizard of Oz hiding behind the sheet. Now, if you were running a good plan and if you had faith in everything you do, you're confident that everybody's going to be involved. You know what? Back in like I said, Reagan, when I was a kid, I'm like, dude, this guy's a douche. But House on a Shiny Hill. When Reagan Reagan didn't want to stop black folks from voting. Even W didn't want to stop that. He pitched their plan to us. We may not have bought it, but he pitched their plan as an American saying, I'm going to include you into this. You're part of this. You know what? And if we didn't vote for them, that's the risk they took. These assholes are going to be like, you know what? I know based on what we're doing, you ain't voting for us. So I'm going to do some things to make it harder for you to vote, to disenfranchise you from voting. Everything that was legal we're illegal prior to 1965, we're going to do now. And it literally is what the Ku Klux Klan resurgent in 1921 was to do, to circumvent and repel what was the growing rights of minorities. Now, we're not doing it with violence. We're not doing it we're running people off of the roads in the South doing voting registration acts. We're doing it subtly now because people have taken their eye off the game. So no, these things that they're putting into, they are sinister. Some of them have overtly admitted it because they know there's not going to be any consequences. So that's a problem.
But here's my question, and this is something that's kind of boggled me, especially the last 10 years. The places where you have the most people of color, East Coast, let's say New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, West Coast, you have democratic governance, you have democratic laws, you have an electorate that is multicultural. Why is it that the laws they're passing aren't working for the people? And that's why sometimes I've kind of pulled back a little bit from the Democratic Party out, because I don't see that the solutions that have been put in place for the last 30, 40 years. And I think you see I'm seeing first time in my life, so many African Americans who are moving to the other side, not because they're Republicans, but because they don't see that the democratic solutions have worked for them.
But you're talking about two different problems that really can be compared. One problem is me having access to a system and not being happy with the results. Now it's my job with access to the system to bounce those guys out. We're talking about a totally different situation where in certain areas where they don't have the access. It's one thing if you have access and the outcome is undesirable. It's another universe entirely if you don't have the access to affect that outcome at all. Two different worlds.
Well, I'll give you an example. In the last 2 or 3 years, because of the issue of police brutality, and especially after George Floyd, they implemented laws here in Philly to kind of let some people go. All right, people have minor offenses, stuff like that. And I have friends who are cops, and they're saying not to pursue certain issues. And what's happened is crime has gotten worse. In the worst place, it's been the worst it is in 40 years. I think 1980 or 30 years. Sorry, 1990 was the last time crime was this high in Philly. And when they did polls of mostly black people in Philadelphia, they said, no, we don't want less policing. We want more policing.
We want more. That's anywhere.
The political language is that, no, we want less policing because of these incidents that have been happening. And all of a sudden I'm seeing such a disconnect because the voices you'll hear on the streets, for example, everyone hates our district attorney, Larry Krasner. And a lot of people said, vote for a new DA, vote during the Democratic primary. If you're a Republican in Philly, switch your registration, become a Democrat, do it. But because Krasner had more money, and even though he's unpopular, he won because you saw his name plastered everywhere. And so now the situation hasn't changed at all because the crime is just getting worse and worse. And you see a lot of people just leaving Philly. And it's a shame because it seems like it's only going to get worse. And here I see a situation where, here in the city of Philadelphia, and I guess this is where I'm getting to, because you're saying we need more people of color in representation in politics. I say at the end of the day, they're politicians. If they get there, they get that power. And just because they're a person of color doesn't mean that they're going to look out for us just because they're a person of color.
No, but you also
Or vice versa, just because they're white, they're not going to look out for us.
Because I studied that situation in Philly as opposed to, a situation in New York where the crime is up. And the black folks in the community there's a difference between protesting for something and then executing on that protest on election day. The people in taking a poll, the people in New York felt the same way, but they executed. They got Eric Adams as their
I like him a lot. He's a cop too. He's a police officer.
Exactly. So a lot of people will make noise. That's why I'm saying don't cry, vote. A lot of those guys who will scream about crime in Philly, if you look at the statistics of those people who engage in those polls, did not vote. So they got the representation. And a different situation happened in a much larger city in New York. Now, like I said, to me, I'm okay with that at that point because of the fact that we are engaging, we are in the process. The outcome of the process is going to be subjective from year to year, election to election. Yeah. My problem is the representation that is there in Philly, that is there in New York. The access to the representation is there. That is not there in other parts of the country. And those people are sending senators, governors, and those people that are voting and not and denying access to other people that are voting are sending people into the power structure that affects you in New York, that affects me here in Vegas, that affects Caden in LA, that affects people in New York. So some guy from Wyoming or some guy in the South who got in because of lack of access and making a decision, he's one of 50 votes. He can affect the entire country of 350 million, the majority of which lives in these cities that generate all the income. So yeah, the access to is as much important
because
to me.
I noticed something the first time I went to vote, and I thought this was weird. I was a Democrat, so like a lot of people come in to vote, and they're given like these pieces of paper, like these are the Democratic candidates, and they hand those out. And I think a lot of people just vote based on that. And I don't. And when you say people are disengaged, I get it. It's if you're working like 50, 60 hours a week, you don't have time to like sit down and then figure out what's going on in your local neighborhood. You come home, you got to feed your kids, you got to make sure they're not out in trouble. And I think that a lot of politicians on both sides take advantage of the fact that they know you're not engaged, not because you don't want to engage, because you can't have to. But I'm saying is that even if it is a person of color, like in Philly, we have a lot of representation here, but they're still incredibly corrupt. Like just because it's a person of color doesn't mean that all of a sudden they have no original sin. They make money. They take bribes. It takes years to fix.
You're right.
Whether it was the Irish who controlled it 50 years ago, or whether now it's a diverse thing, the corruption in politics is always the same. My family's from Pakistan. They've never had a sitting elected prime minister finish his or her term. They're usually dumped out. It just happens.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's white people doing that. No, it happens everywhere. No. My problem is I think at the end of the day, a politician is a politician, whether they're a person of color or not. And I think
you're in Philly and I'm in Vegas. I mean, it's a little bit different in LA. And like I said, there's a certain level that once you get the access, if the voter now doesn't do the right things by that action, you say, hey, people work 60 something. Hey, I work 100 hours a week. I found a way to get engaged in political process. You know why? You could say I don't have time to get into all that. But after the fact, I'll have time to complain. I'll have time to bear the consequences. If my school's getting jammed up and with my kids involved, I'll have time to complain about that. If things in property taxes and all the things that affect you as a family happen adversely to you, you'll have time to whine about that. And hell, you'll even have time to go out and protest. So make time. That's on the voter.
I agree.
That's on the voter.
I agree with you. And look, I mean, I think one of the things that's happening now is, I've never understood why taxes in Philly, especially New York, is crazy. Like a gallon of milk. I went to New York one time. I was like, buy a pack of cigarettes. This was 10 years ago, and how expensive it was over there. I'm like, why are things so expensive? And they say taxes. And I'm like, why is it that? And we did a study on this in high school. Well, why is it that groceries are more expensive in poorer areas than they sometimes are in richer areas? And the study found was that because they know that these people are on food stamps, they know they can charge more because they'll have that money.
Guaranteed money. Yeah,
it's guaranteed money. So like you go to let's say a ShopRite or an Acme in my area, it'll be more expensive than say a ShopRite or an Acme if you just go across the border into the suburbs where the prices are slightly less. And again, I'm saying, okay, so we have the representation, But I think at the same time, when those big companies come with their paycheck, all of a sudden any love you have for helping people goes right out the window. You're like, oh, I want to help people of color. And then you're like, oh, how much money you'll pay me? And that's why a lot of politicians, when they're done, they end up working for bigger companies. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if necessarily, yes, we need more representation, but that will fix things, because a politician, male or female or trans, will be a politician. And that's why I don't necessarily think that would solve everything, or at least
it's a symbiotic relationship, Jack. It's a symbiotic relationship. The representation is part of it. The execution of the voter is the other thing, because people say, oh, my vote doesn't matter. Trust me, they're spending millions to get it. It matters. All right, especially in the congressional districts and gerrymandered districts. So one part of it is the representation angle. The other half of it, and it's equally important, is the execution angle. You have your representation, and there's a congressional spot open. It's up to your job. If you get a guy and he's crooked, and you think he's not representing you right, and he hasn't done what he has for, you call that guy. You got 2 years as a congressman, 12 months coming in. Listen, I think you're not doing right, and I think I'm going to throw my support around someone in certain communities of color where the church dictates who becomes the alderman or the congressman in that district. Guess what? Your ass is on the fire from the moment you get inaugurated as a congressman and you take that oath in Washington. Your ass is on the fire for all 2 years. That's what people in their areas that are represented. But like I said, it's an entirely different problem when you go south of the Mason-Dixon and you start looking at situations where we can't even get into that fight. We can't even get into the point where we're disappointed. We can't even, because people are trying to cut it off. You know what?
But I've never been to the South, but like what I have seen the electoral map, that states like Virginia, Georgia, I think North Carolina flipped blue.
They flipped, but look what happened.
They flipped back, but Florida flipped for Obama twice. It flipped. Pennsylvania flipped. Pennsylvania is kind of a purple state, but like it seems like the demographics changed, and now those states are now like Georgia. Who would have thought that one day Georgia and North Carolina would vote blue? But I guess my question is, so what is specifically, they're just shutting down polling places in like the South?
What they're doing is they are creating law. Like I said, the voter ID law. Oh, I can't get voter ID. Yeah, you know what? In Vegas, it takes me 20 minutes to get one. But I don't live in Mississippi where it's sparsely populated, or to the point where they cut down. If you cut down a polling house in Vegas, it's not a big city. 2 blocks over, I can get to another one. In the places in the South, they try to do that. They try to scrub people from the polls without notifying them, which is, you could not do that pre civil rights era.
That happened in Florida, actually.
During the 2000s. Florida.
That's how Bush won.
Brian Kemp, who is an absolute piece of garbage, governor of Georgia, he was the Secretary of State and tried to do that. That's what Stacey Abrams' biggest deal with him, is he was doing things as the auditor of the person that was supposed to be the securer of that vote. He was doing things on an election that he was involved in, which the law right there needed to be changed. So they're doing things as a result. Carolina just tried to do it again, and the courts blocked them. So you're seeing this as a result to the demographic changes. So when a state goes blue, they're like, we can't have that. So they try these things that affect the area. They have all these maps that you have. They have maps that they're broken down into the micro. So they're doing it as a response, because they're living on that general fear that if the people running the show don't look like us, we're going to be treated like the people that don't look like us. And like I said,
my question is, so like here's why I worry about voter ID, because this happened in the 2016 election. My mom went to vote. You don't need to show ID. They asked her name, address, and she signed. You know, to make you sign the thing. She voted. When my sister came there, she saw that they had signed my mom in her sister's name. And they're like, all right, just sign for your mom and, whatever. Technically, that could be fraud, but we're like, whatever. My question is, what is to stop someone like me? Let's say, and I could imagine this happening, like with the QAnon people. Let's take 10,000 of us to an urban area and say that, oh, I'm William. And my friend here, that's Caden Reed. Okay, all right, cool. And you vote red in a blue area. All of a sudden, that could be stopped by, if you had a vote. Oh, you say you're William, huh? Do you have any ID? Do you have a voter registration ID? And then, boom, right there, that problem is stopped. Because I could totally see that happening. We're like, let's say, okay, listen, we need to flip. Arizona went blue last time. This time we got to make sure it goes red. What if we took about 10,000 people, scattered them across, go and who are the people who don't vote? Go there and say, hi, okay. Let's say William gets off at work at 3. I'll go at 7 a.m. and say I voted, and I'm William. I don't know what your last name is, but like, Powell. Okay, I'm William Powell. Oh, hi, William. How are you? Thank you for voting. Trump. bleep, and I leave.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, it's like, well, if you had the ID, whether it's a voter registration card or even a state ID, that can never happen. That could never happen. I could never say,
okay.
Now,
you can fake those, but even though the odds of that affecting an election and that happening the way you have more of an opportunity of getting attacked right where you're sitting by a shark right now. All right. And here's why. County registrars and everything else, it's not just that initial signature and everything else. There are 18 or 19 different backstops that goes through. That's why it doesn't happen. That's why the system in place that we've had. That's why when all these investigations that happened, all 66 court cases, they lost because there was no basis. There's no evidence because it doesn't happen. It's a 7-year prison sentence or up to a 7-year prison sentence, depending on what state, if you try to fake that. Nobody, just to get a couple thousand names on there is not worth it. And plus duplicate signatures, all kinds of things. It's not just your vote in that area. It's your existence in that general area that has already been verified. I've already been verified. Before I go in and sign that, my registration has been verified and backed up, my signature and everything else. And duplicate things like that, there's so many different ways to catch that. There's a reason why this is a non-existent problem to the extent that they say it is. So, and I've been a part of elections, and there's not, like I said, you can open your door right now. The next knock is going to be a great white shark to eat you. That is your odds. And if you look at the statistics on a national and a local level, this is what makes the Stop the Steal so ridiculous, is they had 66 opportunities to prove this. They failed all times. And when the ones that they did find, they were Republicans. But I'm not saying people don't try this, but they get caught. It's like less than 1%. When you have 100 million, 150 million people voting, and what's not even 1% is at a point something. So if there was no issue to address, they created that issue to address because it's a sort of an underlying racism, not necessarily against everybody involved, but it's an underlying racism saying, well, that couldn't happen. We couldn't. Those people really didn't vote. They couldn't have voted that guy in. How do we get a black president in? Well, I thought this was an all way. That's that kind of thing that they won't say it out loud, but it is in the back of their head that it is such a disruption now. They cannot handle the disruption of this change. They cannot handle that. And they're doing everything. And it looks like a circus. If you're trying to push the case for voter fraud in the last election, you look stupid. Not just because I think you're stupid, whoever thinks that, but because the evidence has borne you out to be a fucking moron. Sorry to curse on your show, but that is the evidence, not me, not William's opinion. The evidence, the evidence has borne you out to be a stooge. If that you just show me the evidence, and they've had equal time. The courtroom and all these states has given all these people equal time. We've had state, federal. March, everybody who could investigate these things, investigate them. They've all come to the same conclusion over the last 60, 70 years that we have not had an issue with the vote count. We've had an issue without access to the ballot, and that's my issue, but you did not have a situation like that. And it's an insult. It's an insult to other Americans that was ever pushed, in my opinion.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you told me that because when that happened in 2016, I'm like, how did that happen? Like, didn't they just check? And I was like, oh, they didn't check the ID. Like, if my mom's English isn't that good. So when, I don't know, maybe they just said, oh, sheriff, 60, and said the address, that's where he lives, sign here. She signed in my sister's name. And my sister went there. She's like, she called me. She's like, someone already voted my name. I'm like, what? Oh, that's mom's signature. Yeah. Like she signed the wrong one. And then I said to the lady, I'm like, look, that I guess maybe to cover herself, I said, why don't you just sign for your mom and then you just vote and kind of, and I have no idea.
I'll give you an example.
Loud, but that's what happened.
I'll give you an example, Jack. I'm a
junior. I said to myself, if something so simple could happen, because, if you're working at the polls, you're there from like 7 to 10 sometimes, depending how long the line is, if someone wanted to be insidious, could something like that happen? That's what I'm worried about.
I'm going to give you an example. I'm a William Powell Jr. My William Powell Sr. We live in the same state. We've lived in the same state for most of my life. We live in California here. We voted on the same day. There was a mix-up and a confusion between the two. They couldn't read the junior or whatever, something was going on. All right. So there was an accident. It looked like William Powell was voting twice. Trust me, they got back to us on that. Because, and then what ends up happening is my Social Security obviously was different. The Social Security Administration, everything that they had used to verify my verification got traced back to that moment. And they realized, oh, this is William Powell born in 1940, whatever. And this is William Powell born. This is William Powell with a totally different thing. And now I have the telephone number of William Powell Sr. I'm calling him with all the verification and I'm calling him, bam, solved. It's a 6-hour process to clear that up. When it happens. It happens a lot with people with the same name or the seconds and the thirds, because not a lot of kids that are 18-year-olds realize you got to put your third on there or all kinds of things. but there's ways to cross-reference these things. It's not just you show up and you vote. There are things that have taken place up to and after the verification up to the point where it is easy. And they did that so that back in when the 14th Amendment, all that was passed, you couldn't do these type of things to keep people who don't have access to these type of things. There are people in the South, like I said, I had an aunt who never drove a car in her life because her husband did it and her sons did it. And that was a culture. You take care of mom, you take care of aunt, you make sure she has everything you need. You go get her, you pay her bills for her, you go get all that. But guess what? She had to verify herself to get that power bill paid and all that, and the property she owns, all that. Yeah, and that's how they got it. That's how there's so many layers of verification before you go down and vote, that the voter ID thing is putting the one thing in there that they would not be able to access. And that is stopping. And you look at the demographics of the people who would not be, who are less inclined.
Here's my question. If they're able, like you said, to get all those things, the power bill, this, that, and everything, and I've done that for my folks too, at some point they want ID to even do that. Like if with the power company, they want a driver's license number or something, or a social security number. In
the South, especially if you lived in your area, your neighborhood, no. Because guess what? The guy who died handed that to you. And a lot of the times it just got handed down. Yeah. It just got handed down. They changed the name on it. As long as you didn't move, as long as you didn't change property identification or property taxes, they wanted their money. And as long as there was somebody paying them, all they did is, like I said, I knew a person whose husband passed away, and the wife for the next 30 years paid the bills and everything because it was still his estate. Now here in LA and in Vegas, it's different because a lot of transient, a lot of things, but the South is different, and some of these places are different, and they know that. And it was never a problem before. Like I said, if you'd have given me a history of this stuff that led up to it, I would be like, you know what, let's get fixed. Because there was no history. The only history is a representation that having everybody allowed to vote, it's that fear that causes people. They don't want that representation because they fear that it means that they're losing something. And they're not. It's a ridiculous notion. I've bought into this whole American, given our history in this country, how we got here. I have bought into this whole idea of America to the point where I made myself available to come back in a pine box if it were to happen that way. My dad did it before me, and my grandfather, and 20 some odd people in my extended family have served in a war in the military. We've bought in. We're not going to be like, oh, wow, we're in control now. Screw you, white people. That is absurd. But that is the fear, because you see the George Floyd situation. You see the history of the country, that's taught in schools. And that's, you see that. You can't run away from that. You can't run away from that, but you can accept it and intake it differently. Yes, we've had slavery, but that doesn't mean I'm going to walk out the store and hate every white people or a white person. No, but we do have to address these things so that we can be on an equal footing, because we're better for it. We're better. Listen, one of the reasons why we're the best country in the world is because we're our even with all these problems we just talked about. I wouldn't trade here for anywhere. I've been all over the fucking world. I wouldn't trade America. No way. I've been in the continent, Africa, Southwest Asia. I've been in Iraq. No, I'm not. No, I'm staying.
Yeah, that's my point. Is to start with Aiden, where he said, should we give the land back to the Native Americans? I'm like, well, technically, I'm a beneficiary of that stolen land too. I'm not giving up my parents worked hard to pay this mortgage off, And I said that's unfortunate part of history. It's wrong. Same thing throughout the world. Pakistan used to be part of India, and I said to Dad, would you be fine if India marched in tomorrow and said, hey, for like thousands of years?
That's okay. The difference here, though,
the idea.
I understand what you're saying. You can't undo the act. Yeah. But you have to deal with the consequences. Obviously, you can't give land, back to all these things, but you have to look at the consequences, the practical consequences that you can address. Address what you can address. Obviously, we can't turn back the clock. But if these things have long-lasting consequences that are causing problems today, then we need to address those. Yes. We need to address those issue by issue. It has had an issue on cultural. It has had an effect on education. It has had an effect on income. All these things that started out have had an effect, and we've never truly dealt with them. And now, like I said, it becomes a problem. So no, we can't give land back to any other than the reservations that they're already, better we can. And obviously, you can't undo slavery and everything else. But you're gonna have to address some of the things. Some of the things that slavery caused that we're still having problems with today. A lot of the policing issues and the way Black folks are viewed in certain areas of the country could root itself not only in slavery but the civil rights era. So we have to address those things. We cannot exist side by side with each other and not address these things. You know what? We don't have to uproot everything, but we have to understand that, white guy, I love you, best friend and everything else, but you've existed on a different plane than me. We could have came from the same, joined the army, the same place, same thing, got our jobs at the same place, there's been a culture built in before you and I even met that we have to address. Now, I don't have to do it at your, cost, but we have to come to something, and that's a conversation everybody never wants to have, and that's the problem, is having the conversation. Gets easier with each younger generation because each younger generation doesn't hold on. Like I said, with each generation, we're not talking about somebody who lived in the Jim Crow era or this era or that era. We're talking about multicultural. You're going to have people that were born, with a black president in office, depending on what year they were born. In 20 years, those people will have never known an existence without a person of color in the White House. Whereas I went my entire life, and the country went, 43 men to ever have that. They're going to be born into that situation. So it's going to get easier with each generation. But us that have straddled all this, we're the ones that are going to have to push the narrative. We're the ones that are going to have to let people know what the consequences are. Otherwise, we're going to keep coming back to the same dumb stuff over and over again, unless we trace it back to where it happens. Don't have to blow up everything, but you got to stop these little explosions from turning into big ones. And that's all I was saying. I didn't mean to blow up your show.
No, that's good. Honestly, I had nothing to talk about. I was like, Doctor Strange is coming out. Dave Chappelle got tackled, and I wish we could talk about more of this stuff on this show. Granted, we're a pop culture show, but sometimes I always wonder, like, it'd be kind of interesting to kind of dive into these topics. The problem is sometimes I think people aren't interested. No, all of you watching.
I think people are interested, and it's sensitive. People would rather run away from those conversations than have them. And like I said, the time to have a conversation about how we could curb school shootings and access to things and protect people's rights shouldn't be happening in the wake of a school shooting. It should be happening in the interim.
Can I tell you one story? Something that happened as a joke. I do these cold opens. I said, and this is in August, I said, at this moment, there is a crisis in Afghanistan. 13 U.S. soldiers have been blown up. This is happening. Millions of refugees are the Taliban is taking over. So today we are going to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Welcome to Jiving with Jack. But even until I got to that moment, people just start tuning out. They didn't realize that, in a sense, I was trying to make a bit that, like, hey, all this serious stuff is happening, and we're going to talk about Spider-Man. But, like, immediately someone said, I'm out of this conversation. Like, even the idea of just hearing what was going on, they just wanted to hear it. They left, and I was like, oh, you missed the punchline.
And then some people may be engaging that stuff directly, and they do come here. They do come to these places to get away. So I can understand that too. But at some point, somewhere in the in-between, you got to have these conversations. And they're not always
absolutely.
So, all right, well, I got some customers coming in.
All right, I got.
I just came in.
I think that's a wrap right here. That's good.
I don't think I could have.
Your show is, you have two shows now. You have one on Monday.
Yeah, I have the Sci-Fi Center Presents. We're going to get back to this. The schedule leading up to our Doctor Strange promo is taking everything away from me time-wise, and I have a show on Friday on this very network called. It's going to be a long one tomorrow. The Sci-Fi Center Live, because we're going to.
I gotta buy tickets for Doctor Strange. I still haven't bought it yet. It's just been one of those weeks.
Yeah, I wish you were in Vegas. We rented the theater.
Oh, I would love that. You know what it is? If I could, I'd ask Enosh, give me a couple of weeks off. But I took 2 weeks off. I had 2 procedures done, so I was like out of my mind on Percocet for 2 weeks. And then my dad had emergency shoulder surgery on one day, and then he had so many complications. We went to 4 trips to the emergency room over the next week. They couldn't figure out what it was, and then we went to a different hospital. They did a full workup. Oh, he has the flu, but he's 71, and that's
you got to guard it.
Huge thing. And it took him, and at that point, I did not care about Star Trek. I didn't care about Halo or any of the shows we're on. It just goes out of your mind. And then, like, when you try to do the show, like, your head's over there. You know,
you have to be engaged. And like I said, last week I was not engaged because I was getting ready for this. I was getting ready for Free Comic Book Day, which is huge. Getting ready for Strange New Worlds to watch long. We were doing for that.
Yeah, see, I got to catch up on Picard, and I have a lot of hope for Strange New Worlds because
it was beautiful. I watched it.
I only watched the original series because I was always on syndication during the day, during the 90s, like at 1 p.m. on like UPN. And then at night you had The Next Generation. And it's kind of like the Michael Keaton Batman thing. I didn't want to watch a movie without Michael Keaton when the Joel Schumacher movie. When I saw there was a new Star Trek and it's not Jean-Luc Picard, I'm like, I'm not watching this. And then Voyager came out. I'm not watching this. No, Picard and Kirk only. During lockdown is the first time I watched those shows, and I'm like, oh my God, I kind of miss this type of television. Like, I like this long form storytelling, but I kind of miss how every episode was a completely different story. You didn't have to, jump in. And I hope that they say Strange New World is supposed to be that. So
It is that, but did you watch the premiere episode?
Not yet. I haven't watched anything today.
There is an underlying theme there with him that if you watched his first appearances in season 2 of Discovery.
Oh yeah, Discovery. I loved him. I was like, crap. I wish we could have him because Michael started working for me now. Like in season 4, he started working. But other than that, I'm like, oh, him and her together would be, but like that's not Star Trek canon. He has the Enterprise.
He's great. And
can we have you come on and let's talk a little Star Trek one of these days?
Oh, whenever. Yeah, I'd love to.
How about next Tuesday? Once Picard's going to be over. I think it is over, right?
Picard's over last night. I just haven't caught up.
Okay. I watch that now. Let's do a Star Trek thing next Tuesday, 4:30, which would be 1:30. Would that work for you?
Can we do it at 12:30, or is that too early for you?
12:30 would be 1:30, 2:30, 3:30.
Yeah,
maybe. It depends. I have to figure out my work schedule because right now
we can get together offline. We're part of the same network, so we can.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. If I'll tell Enos, like, hey, I want to do it 3:30, but I would love to do a Star Trek thing because I want to talk about old Trek and new Trek because I get why new Trek isn't working as well as old Trek was, and I think they're trying to figure it out. Just like TNG, it took it like 3 seasons to kind of figure it out to make its own voice. Yeah. So
I love New Trek. As a person who is I love Discovery. It is a flawed show, just like every Star Trek that was ever created, except for Voyager.
Discovery so much. I'm trying so hard, but at the same time, the way they did Pike was great. I love Saru, Tilly. I mean,
they get better.
I like Michael when she became captain.
Yeah,
that's where I thought she was at her best. When they made her kind of like this rogue commander in the first 2 seasons, I'm like, they haven't found her voice yet. The writers haven't. It's not the actress's fault. But once she became captain and went to the future and she changed her look and everything, I'm like, now it's clicking. I think it was season 3 she became captain, right?
Yeah, it's in the 3 because they went into the future. I've loved it. There's been issues with it, but like I said, I could pick as many issues out of Next Generation. Voyager for me was the only series from that I loved from episode 1 to its last episode.
Voyager gets the most hate, and then out of what I consider like old school Trek. It's funny, when I was a kid, that wasn't old.
It's new school to me because I'm a little bit older.
But like part of that, I guess you could say that era of like old Trek. I finally watched Voyager and I loved it. I'm like, I don't get because all people say, well, Voyager is the weakest one. DS9 might be the most interesting one. I mean,
the best Vulcan was on that show.
Like a whole other level. Like, oh, is he better than Picard? I said, no, this is different. Different styles of captainship, different styles of personality.
Different missions.
Yeah. And he had to go into nitty gritty that Picard, we never saw Picard do. Like, like double-handed dealings, working with Section 31.
The Romulans, when they pulled the Romulans into the Dominion War, that was,
Oh my God, that's the episode where he's like talking to the camera. I was like, what? Why was I not watching this? And maybe if I was like 5-6 years old, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it,
Yeah.
But like now that I'm an adult, I'm like, there was a level of quality of writing in those shows that I think needs to be brought. They should do what the Orville is doing. And the Orville, which is made by Seth MacFarlane, you have a lot of TNG, DS9, and Voyager writers because they're all that kind of same group helping write some of those episodes. And you're like, wow, this feels like old school Trek. I think Kurtzman, they should get people like, what was her name? Jerry Ryan or Renee Echeverria. Those names you'd always see popping up on TNG, DS9, and Voyager.
Well, they're on Picard now. So.
And Picard, yeah. Get some of them to kind of help get like the voice of Star Trek so it feels like the old and new. But anyway,
they got to be really careful with that, though, because that spoke to a different generation.
Yeah.
The current generation of TV viewing and the way storytelling is done today, as much as I love Next Generation, it's not the mid-'90s. It's not it's not.
But I'm saying you find a balance. So you have the Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman style mixed with it. I think they can bring that back, like in a mix of it. So you have the modern storytelling mixed with. I mean, DS9 was doing everyone says like Discovery's the first show to do it. I'm like, DS9 basically from especially the last 2 or 3 seasons was one long story. If you missed one episode, you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah,
like,
I think
with that in the 90s.
Dude, I think that Strange New Worlds might be the closest thing you can come to that. But you couldn't have Strange New Worlds as much as people wanted to.
They stopped with the cursing. The cursing's bothering me. Not in Star Trek.
A little bit, but once again,
I always love seeing that Star Trek 4 where Kirk's like a double dumbass on you. The idea was that people don't even curse in the future; they're so evolved.
Which is crazy. But there's a little bit minimal cussing. But like I said, I think that the Star Trek, if we're going to grow Star Trek, we got to be okay with different forms of storytelling that I may or may not like. Star Trek for
I'm still watching. A lot of people dropped off. I still kept watching, and I thought season 3 might be my favorite one of Disco. I really thought that season 3, when they got to the future, there's no Federation, there's no Starfleet, and they're like, what do we do? And
rebuilding, and it's new.
And that actor, I don't know what his name is. I think he's Israeli, the one who plays like the Admiral
Vance.
Excellent.
He is.
I remember him from the Mummy movies.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you got to go, but we're getting lost.
All right, man. Well, yeah. Let's set something up. We'll set something up.
All right.
Bye, Caden.
All right. Bye. Okay, I forget. Okay, go away, Caden. All right. Bye, Caden.
Bye.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
We'll see you guys.
All right. See you, William.
All right. Sorry, Caden. That kind of got out of hand. But you know what?
No. It was.
I really had nothing else to say about the Doctor Strange, because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Like on Tuesday, I'm like, what else am I gonna say? We went over the reviews. Wanda's in it, and I had one terrible picture.
And Chappelle's in it. Guys, Chappelle plays the new Iron Man.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great?
People thought Tom Cruise is the new Iron Man.
No, like he just pops up.
It's actually
Dave Chappelle. Strange, and just punches him in the face. That was cold-blooded. All right, I gotta go. I got 3 Star Trek shows to watch, because tomorrow morning I go right back to work. So, guys, thanks for tuning in today. So this is kind of like, now obviously we got very political on this show. That's not what Jivin with Jack is, but I do like to touch on the politics a little bit. I don't want to become like nerd-rotic or overlord, but I like to have the conversations about this when it's relevant.
Yeah.
When it's relevant.
I mean, and it's pretty relevant with the whole with everything going on.
Right now. I'm wondering, we don't know what that guy's issue was. Maybe he was someone who didn't like what Chappelle, the jokes he had made, or maybe he was just crazy.
Maybe.
You know what? Are we sure that wasn't Ezra Miller?
Stop it. Stop it.
Ezra Miller.
Stop.
He moved really quick. Flash. Ezra Miller attacked Dave Chappelle.
It was a SoundCloud rapper.
Oh. It was a rapper.
So he probably wanted to do that so he can rap about his next song.
There was someone else, I think. Remember, like, he was at a convention and he drop kicked Arnold Schwarzenegger. But Schwarzenegger's a big guy, even at 75. He just kind of went like this. Like, why would you do that? Like, what?
Yeah.
You're going to be known as the guy who drop kicked Arnold Schwarzenegger at 70. You were lucky it wasn't 20 years ago when he would have.
Right. When he would have, like, punched you down.
Or like that dude who messed with Mike Tyson. Like, I think Mike went too far. But at the same time, like, dude, why isn't the airline doing their job and kicking that mother effer off the plane? Like, he's bothering a celebrity. And he's got to stand up for himself at some point. So Mike Tyson went Mike Tyson on him. Like, yes,
but
get off.
With this thing, I honestly think this is the example to be made out of the person. This is the person that was made an example to not go up on stage and mess with someone that's on the stage.
And you know what? I think it's pretty easy, especially if you're in the front row, even if you have security. If you just jump up, because, the security guard, he's going to watch hundreds of people here, and you got another security guard there. It's very quick for them to get across the stage. So I'm worried for Dave's safety, so pray for Dave. Remember, folks, Jivin with Jack is not just a name. What the hell is my thing? It's not a name. It's a lifestyle, whatever that means.
Get Jivin.